Travelers on the Omnibus occasionally touches on mature subject matter with mature language. As such, the audience discretion is advised.
Thank you for joining Travelers on the Omnibus, a field trip through nerd and pop culture. I am Jody Kai.
They've replaced him with AI. Shit.
Sounds like an NPR podcast host.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you went, Ethan?
I am Ethan Skinner.
Oh, no, they're both AI.
Oh, shit.
Shit, it's humans versus Cyberdyne.
Ah, God damn it.
I'd say you and me got to team up. I'm James McCarthy.
I'm Brady Davis.
All right, humans versus Cyberdyne. Let's go.
Welcome to Travelers on the Omnibus with Terry Gross and Ira Glass.
Oh, no, they're AI too? Fuck.
They have been for... Ira Glass definitely sounds like AI. Terry Gross, not some... Well, I don't know. Terry Gross...
Maybe Ira Glass assimilated him. They're all the Borgs.
Ira Glass assimilated him. Terry Gross.
Yes. Yes.
Terry Gross is a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
He also changed his sexual gender preference, orientation.
Well, we are getting into dangerous territory here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the part of the show where I talk about
Censored.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Travelers on the Omnibus.
So about that
Censored.
Man, I'm sure the audience would love to know what the fuck that was,
Yeah.
but it's on the floor. It's on the cutting room floor.
It should be.
Yeah.
It's discarded.
I hope we can
thrown into
trust
the
Jay
corner.
enough.
I think we
tune in next time to find out if they could trust me enough.
I'm gonna have to listen to the show when it comes out Tuesday.
I'm gonna guarantee 3 views on this episode just by doing that. That'd be great.
3 views and then a ton of hate mail from 12-year-olds.
Yep.
Ethan, what you been up to?
I have been well. No,
You should have said, speaking of 12-year-olds, Ethan, where you missed an opportunity.
kind of a chill week. Played some more. I finally downloaded F-Zero 99.
Good man.
Okay.
Good man.
Having a lot of fun with that. May or may not have gotten angry a couple of times.
Why would you get angry? There's nothing about that game.
Because I keep running into the walls. It's so like floaty.
Floaty?
and
Yeah, welcome to
drifty and-
F-Zero.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
Jay's like, I don't remember it being this floaty. I'm like,
Hang on.
It's been
so
floaty.
on the Super Nintendo emulator that you can get for having just the regular
Yeah.
internet. I played F-Zero. It's not that floaty.
They fixed it.
No. They exaggerated it.
Oh,
They
okay.
exaggerated it more.
They might have brought back like the GameCube one because the GameCube one was notoriously hard, like, very hard. It was so hard that I never.
The GameCube one was done by Sega, which always.
I heard it was so fucking hard. I was like, there's no point in me buying
Right.
this.
The regular races weren't hard. The challenge races, which were a part of the story mode, were insane.
Yeah.
So F-Zero 99.
F-Zero 99. Me and Bianca, we watched a movie on Disney Plus.
Okay.
It was the Pixar movie Strangeworld.
Okay.
It was pretty decent.
I don't think that one's Pixar.
It is Pixar.
It is?
It was the 2022 Pixar movie.
Oh, okay.
It's I don't remember who all like voiced in it. It was a pretty good movie.
I haven't watched. I've heard when I watched that video on Solar Punk, they talked about that one being kind of Solar Punk adjacent because it is about like environmental shit.
So the premise of the movie is it begins with it kind of feels like a 1950s like narration, like here comes
Yeah,
the
it's
hero.
like what's that fucking what's that old sci-fi one where they go to another planet and it's got the robot and they
Forbidden Planet.
Forbidden Planet.
It's kind of like Forbidden Planet and things like that.
Yeah, and so
Strangeworld, Disney Animation Studios, not Pixar.
okay. For some reason, I have no idea why I was thinking Pixar.
Because they both use computer generated
Yeah, now
stuff.
it can be hard to tell the difference because they both use the computer generated animation.
Stellar looking cast: Jake Gyllenhaal, Dennis Quaid, Gabrielle Union, Lucy Liu. Yeah, that's some good stuff.
I wasn't interested in it, and then I watched that video, and I became interested, and then I forgot about it, and now I need to. I need to pick it back up because it's like those 1950s serials.
Yeah, it starts off with like the main characters start to like grow distant from his father on like an expedition trip and whatnot. He discovers a revolutionary plant that furthers human society. And like years later, him and his family, they have to figure out what's causing the plants to die. And so that's when they go to the source of where they found the plant, and they get stuck in this strange world where everything's alive and all of that. And I like the message in it a lot. It's like, just because like your parents have a legacy doesn't mean you have to follow it and all that.
Okay, yeah.
I very much enjoyed it.
I've heard good things about it. I just I need to watch it because it does sound, because again, it's like those kind of old school. There's another one that I'm thinking of that I cannot remember, but yeah, I need to check that out. I keep forgetting about it.
I'd recommend it.
Would you like to hear my theory on how Disney is Pepsi from the 80s?
Sure. I don't even know what you mean
Wait,
by that.
if we're voting no, Brady decide.
You are the tiebreaker.
It's like literally like a minute.
I'm curious as to
We're
what
gonna
you
have
mean
to
by,
hear it either way.
Yeah, he'll tell us off mic. So
Yeah.
I'm curious what you mean by Pepsi from the 80s.
So in the 80s, Pepsi couldn't sell their product to anybody. No restaurants would carry Pepsi. This is at the time where Pepsi had Pepsi and Diet Pepsi, and that was it.
Okay.
And Pepsi was trash and still is trash. But anyway, nobody would carry Pepsi. So what Pepsi decided to do
is choke Jody to death while
is what
trying
Pepsi
to give
does.
out Pepsi's secrets.
a bug flew in my mouth.
A bug flew in your. Oh, it's for Pepsi.
The Pepsi bug.
Lost in Space. That's the movie that I was thinking.
Oh,
of.
yeah, Lost in Space.
Yeah.
Let
or
me
the
swallow
TV
The TV
series.
show, and then
Let me
they
swallow
made it a
this
movie
gnat.
later.
Hold on.
So while he's coming back to life,
All right,
the Lost
so-
in Space movie from the late '90s was the first movie to be #1 in the United States after Titanic.
Oh shit. That movie's actually decent. So anyway, since they couldn't sell their product in any restaurants, they decided, well, let's buy the restaurants.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
I
so
know where you're going with this.
Pepsi bought like Pizza Hut,
Yeah.
KFC, and a bunch of other places.
Taco
Yeah.
Bell.
Taco
and Taco
Bell.
Bell, because
And
now
they put that all under the Yum Brands
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So now-
Well, it's
so-
under the Yum brand.
so now they could sell Pepsi to these restaurants because they own the restaurants. Isn't that funny?
And that's why you have like all these like KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut combos.
Long John
Well,
Silver's.
that's why
yeah, it's a combo.
during when the Phantom Menace came out, there were Star Wars promotions, one at KFC, one at Taco Bell, and one at Pizza Hut, and there were different planets, and they had different things from the movies.
The more recent ones, yeah. And speaking of Star Wars, that's why Disney bought Star Wars, and that's why Disney bought Marvel, because their stock was declining because they weren't putting out anything good consistently. Like Frozen came out, and but before Frozen, they weren't really putting out a whole lot. Like their Pixar was like carrying the weight for a long time after that, and they bought Pixar for the same reason.
Well, Pixar was about to leave. They had one more like movie under their contract under the Disney distribution deal, and then
Right.
Disney said, "You're not going anywhere."
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were working together for a long time, and then Disney's like, you know what, we'll just buy you outright, and so Disney. That's another reason why, like after the Feige, end game of the 10 years of Marvel movies like ran out, like we've gotten garbage because they can't come up with new ideas anymore, even for properties they have characters for and stuff like that and IPs. Anyway, moving on. Is
Well,
that
they
you,
also
Ethan?
like it was terribly like the Strangeworld. It was like most things that aren't Pixar, especially, are, and they're just Disney animation. If they're not like a sequel for something like a Frozen or anything like that, they are very poorly marketed.
Right.
Like the marketing for Strangeworld was very.
They put no
almost
money into it.
non-existent.
Yeah,
They put no
yeah,
money
like,
into it.
legitimately. Yeah.
Like I remember there
And then
being
it
a trailer.
failed, and then they're like, "Oh, what do we do?" Like they have a problem
Right.
with that now.
Like
Yeah.
the reason I didn't see it when it like first came out was because I didn't even know it existed. I saw like one trailer.
it was like there and gone in the
Yeah.
theaters.
Well, I think
believe.
one of the reasons why they did that is
maybe it wasn't even in the theaters.
it went to theaters.
Oh, okay.
Turning Red, they put a lot of money in the marketing for that, and it didn't do.
But
What
then-
it made money, but it didn't make the money they
The
wanted it
problem
to
with that
make.
is they put it on streaming as soon as it was on. It was in theaters and on streaming.
Well,
at
that
the
was
same
also
time.
during COVID, wasn't it?
At the end of COVID.
Yeah.
I would say like 20,
The other
21.
one, the fantasy one, with Chris Pratt, that was
Onward.
That one was only on streaming because it was like the height of COVID.
Yes.
It was
It was the same thing with the live action Milan. They had to find somewhere to get it, which they tried to kind of find a happy medium between not pissing off the theaters but still having
by
it
charging
distributed
$30 to
basically
to-
right now, if it's not like a Marvel movie, like it barely, because they did the same thing with Soul. It came out I think in theaters and in that, and it was a Pixar movie and it got nothing. But then, like we talked about last week, Elemental, it did a shitty first week, and then like
eventually
it picked
caught
up
on
and
because
and
word of
made
mouth.
a shitload of money.
Yeah, right.
So there we go, stepping all over your time again.
I like this conversation.
Yeah.
What else you been up to, Ethan?
I've been contemplating getting a DLC recently. When the latest Pokemon game came out, Scarlet and Violet, that game was a dumpster fire. Like, there's so many technical issues with it, so many like bugs and with character models, gameplay, and all that. And so I played the game because I bought it and I beat it. And I haven't touched it since. But they came out with part 1 of their Teal Mask DLC. I want to say 2 weeks ago, and I'm scared to get it a little bit because I'm afraid that it's not going to be like a fully finished product as to what the base game was. But everything I'm seeing about it, it looks so cool. They brought back regional variants from the Legends Arceus game that I absolutely love, and so I don't know. It's one of those things I'm afraid of getting, and I'm not going to enjoy it, and so yeah.
Well, Cyberpunk's got its DLC coming out.
Phantom, it's out. Phantom Liberty is out. I think as of Monday it was out.
And they had been patching the game, and the game was fixed regardless if you got the DLC or not. So maybe they fixed the game.
Maybe. It's just something I'm gonna have to like revisit to see if it's gonna be worth getting.
Yeah, the way I am with games like that, if they burn me, like even if they fix it later, like I'm still not interested.
Yeah.
Yep. Ask Jay about No Man's Sky.
Cyberpunk, No Man's Sky, like they've basically fixed those games, and like I do not give a shit about it.
And even in particular with No Man's Sky, they've gone beyond fixing it. They've added like a game's worth of content to their game.
It's the game that they said it was going to be at the very beginning.
Right, 8 years later.
And like, yeah, that's cool, and I appreciate that, but like I have no interest in that. You've lost me. Like,
right. And I didn't get Cyberpunk day one right away because of the shit that happened. So like when I bought it earlier this year used for like $20, it didn't affect me in that way because I didn't get burned in that way.
Yeah. I didn't even get burned, but I heard so much bad shit about it that I'm like, I do not give a shit about this game.
I enjoy it because I bought it day one just because I really loved what they were putting together as far as story-wise. And story-wise, the game's never been broken. That was a very, very good game, very loyal to Mike Pondsmith's vision and their own vision of stuff. It stays truer to Cyberpunk than their production of The Witcher stays close to the original Witcher content. And you could tell this was from a crew that this was their window into RPGs. The original like CD Projekt Red crew like came from playing Cyberpunk.
Right. And Pondsmith was part of the story crew.
Was helped it, like worked hand in hand with them developing it and going forward because they were in the process of going to Cyberpunk Red, which takes place in 2045.
Right, it's in between.
And it's in between Cyberpunk 2020 and 2077. Technical issues in that game are if you don't like those, you are not going to enjoy the first 10 minutes of the game. There's a mission that starts up. There's a cab company called Delamain, and it's AI driven cabs. And like they're kind of cool. He's a cool voice, very kind of like very posh British voice. The winning going through that entire thing gets you like him as you can always call him and just drive him around. It's pretty cool. But the way it starts is you're supposed to be like walking in the street and then a Delamain cab just runs you the fuck over. And I say, okay, that's a good way to start anything. Yeah, just hit somebody with a car. Except when I got the quest, I was already in a car in a parking garage. So once I finished the quest I was on, I look up and there is a car going 80 miles per hour immediately, ran over me in the car and then passed through the back wall of the parking structure and disappeared. And I was like, What the fuck was that?
And that was a good Cyberpunk experience because
Yes.
on the PlayStation, it was unplayable. They pulled it off the digital store for like 6 months.
Yeah.
PS4 and the Xbone, both of them had to have massive reworkings.
They had to take
get
them off the store.
Is it playable now on the PlayStation
yes.
4?
Yes.
optimized to where it is playable.
It is.
I've
It's
always
playable.
had it on the PC.
Yeah.
I've never had an issue with stuff running wrong, but I will say this. If you like driving cars, switch to motorcycles if you're playing Cyberpunk because Jesus Christ, those controls are shit.
It was
I tried keyboard and mouse. That's fucking horrible. I tried control of my controller. Controller worked a little bit, but it was a PS4 controller that I was initially using, and it still didn't mesh the fuck up. It was I'd know
On console, it was a potato for like almost a year.
potatoes are delicious
So
and you can eat them.
So-
Those Pepsi flies, man, they don't care.
Yeah.
so this,
Fucking
Goddamn.
spies.
this conversation reminded me of something that I found out this week. Y'all know that the new Mortal Kombat game came out. Mortal
Yes.
Kombat
Mortal
1.
Kombat 1.
Have y'all seen like the change in like graphics from like PC, Xbox, and PlayStation to like the Switch?
The Switch has always gotten the.
Yeah.
Oh, it is dog shit.
Like almost everybody is googly-eyed.
Yeah.
I honestly want to get that version just so I can have googly-eyed Johnny Cage fighting
you
people.
know how shadows exist? Those don't exist on the
Oh,
Switch.
okay, yeah.
Like
so,
everything.
So in this, the graphics match a lot of the voice acting.
I was thoroughly
Because
shocked.
they got like Ronda
'Cause
Rousey
they-
and Megan Fox
'cause
to do voice acting.
all
and
of
that's
the
bad.
all of the like trailers and like before launch gameplay trailers, those are all like recorded on like optimal.
Oh,
graphics
yeah, of
and
course
everything.
they were.
They never
Yeah.
advertised any of that on the Switch, and so
Of course
when
not.
people got it for the Switch, they're like, "What the fuck
let
am I
me
playing?"
go further than this. I was
Ethan,
thoroughly shocked.
let me
that there
introduce
was
you
a-
to Killzone 2.
Yeah. Again, I was thoroughly shocked that there was a Switch version of it. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC. Okay, high end shit. And then
Oh yeah.
I'm going to talk about a more serious bug that goes across all of the Mortal Kombats right now. Mortal Kombat 1s right now. Player 1 can complete combos that player 2 just cannot.
yeah,
Wow.
And I don't even mean left to right side of the screen. If player 2 goes on the left side of the screen, they still can't do the combos.
Wow. That's weird because usually the Mortal Kombats lately have been pretty solid.
That is
Yeah.
something.
Terrible. That's absolutely horrible.
Have you ever seen any of the wrestling games on the Switch?
oh, those are.
Yeah. Stretchy legs. Figure that one out.
Oh, just,
Anything else, Ethan?
just a picture of like Melina with her
Yeah.
eyes agape.
That looks like a normal Melina to me.
Yeah, the mouth is actually 100% accurate to the other versions. It's the eyes there.
Like-
They're just fucking crazy.
I think Smoke is my favorite character model on the Switch.
Yes. Yep.
But yeah, that's me.
Good
Jay,
Lord.
what you been up to?
So a little bit more F-099. I found that Blue Falcon, Captain Falcon's ship is not for me because it's too fucking floaty, and it's like for what it needs to do, it doesn't accelerate fast enough. Its top speed is not high enough. Like it's the quote unquote average one, but really it's below average in almost everything. So I stay with usually the Wild Goose and the Fire Stingray.
I'm currently using the Wild Goose.
Wild Goose, yeah. Especially if you're like planning on being in the middle of the pack and just getting punched in the face constantly, you need to be in the Wild Goose because it has the most
More
durability.
tanky.
Way more
Yeah.
durable. Its acceleration to top speed curve is a lot more hittable. It's worse on the Fire Stingray, but the Fire Stingray is a little heavier, so it doesn't fly as far when you're jumping. Which once you hit the miles per hour for boost for getting the jump, you just kind of float there with everything else, and it's kind of annoying. Stingray just falls, and it's like, okay, good, I'm back on the thing. I can keep building up speed, so I'm cool with that. But that has been video game wise for me. Has just been pretty much F-099. And then I've been looking. So there's this game. It's called Fabula Ultima. It's a tabletop role playing game. I've been looking at it for a while because it's a lot of my favorite RPGs. It has the clock system from Blades in the Dark. It has the bond system from Aegon. Let me say it has an adaptation of the bond system.
Okay.
So it's whereas instead of spending the bond like getting their die, you spend the bond to add a modifier to the roll itself. And I really enjoyed all that stuff in there. But what I really kind of sold me on is friend of the show and fellow podcaster Jared Hubbard of Silence Your Cell Phones. He has already bought it. And he's already kind of had some fun with it, and he's saying, okay, so that tipped me over on it. I bought it as like one of the last 6 copies that Flipside Gaming, which has slowly become my favorite eBay seller. So quick shout out to Flipside Gaming. They had 6 copies left. I bought one at $25. Got I think it was 25, and then after taxes, I think it pushed it to 30. And then got it. It was great. And then I went like, I want it because it has the PDF inside, so it's in cellophane. So I got the PDF version. So that was pretty cool because the PDF version right now on drive-thru I think is $17, and so for like about $10 more, I got the hard copy and the PDF as well. So that was really nice. I enjoyed that. I went back to look for it again, and the cheapest I found is $45.
Oh, wow.
So the initial print run is out right now.
Yeah,
I have to imagine they're going to be going back to another one, which I'm enjoying reading up on this so far. The rules are very simple. It's very simple. You're usually pairing 2 traits. Sometimes you're pairing the same trait with one another. Like let's say you're holding up the portcullis of a gate, so you roll might plus might. So because it's all about your strength. But meanwhile, let's say you have to hold this for a long time, then it would be might plus willpower, and so you roll those. And your values are changed depending on what class you are, what level you are. You're always rolling 2 dice. It can be as low as a D6 and be high as a D20. Your dice can be upgraded or downgraded. You can have bonuses added to it. What I really love is the critical success. Critical fumbles are if you roll 2 ones on the dice, you critically fumble no matter what your modifiers are. Very similar to D&D, except you also get a Fabula point, which is what's used to power a lot of your other esoteric magic skills. Also, your ability to change the world, which we'll get into that a little bit. But a critical success is any time you roll the same number on both dice. And because you're rolling different dice, that can be completely different however you want to go about it. But whenever you get that, you get an opportunity, and the opportunity can be stat stuff like the next person or you can get a +4 in their next roll, or you can add things called information, like you find out a piece of information that either comes from the game master or it's something that the character makes up themselves and then they incorporate it in the story. So this term I've used with RPG, story forward gaming. In this game, it's not on just the GM to build the world. It is on everybody because you have 3 sheets similar to Blades in the Dark. You have your character sheet that's for you. You have your party sheet, which is for everybody who's in the party. And then you have the world sheet where you're building the world alongside the GM. Like you're creating the kingdoms or the cities and all these things. You're actually, as a player, have a lot more authority to guide things to where they are going. And I find that absolutely fascinating. I can't wait to bring that to the table here.
Did you mention that like the setting is kind of like a JRPG? It's supposed to be like that?
It's set up, the homages to JRPGs are just woven throughout. It literally, like the subtitle is TTJRPG, tabletop JRPG, Japanese style role playing games. Final Fantasy is the obvious choice there, but there's a good bit of Bravely Default if you like some of the more modern stuff. Octopath Traveler. There's a good bit of Suikoden from what I've seen as far as building cities and stuff. So I'm very excited to get this sit down and played. I think.
It looks very interesting.
In about 2 weeks, I'm looking on Thursdays to kind of just like get a crew together and just sit down and kind of hash this thing out.
Yeah, it sounds also familiar to Ryutama. Which is also another JRPG tabletop.
Specifically, and I want to make sure I get her name right because this was from the introduction, this was a 4-year labor of love, which included time off for her to deal with very serious medical issues that she overcame. Emmanuel Galetto, just an absolutely perfect way of just kind of putting all of these kind of things together. She mentioned the fact Ryutama is a big inspiration for this game as well.
Yeah.
So
if you want to like look at some really like cool like Final Fantasy inspired artwork, Ryutama's got that in it. And also, the Ryutama, the game itself is actually really cool and interesting as well. Doesn't have the same world building aspect to it, but it's definitely very, very Japanese RPG. So
I remember seeing this on I think it was on Kickstarter. And it looked very interesting.
When she was just naming off just like her inspirations, and it's like everything that I love about not D&D RPGs. I like D&D. I'm not saying that, but from the ones that I played that are not based on D&D, again, Blades in the Dark, Aegon, Apocalypse World is mentioned, so a little bit of City of Mist is also kind of floating in there as well. Yeah, that all kind of got it. And then when Jarrett said that like the execution worked, okay, I'm sold.
Right.
And it's a very simple system, so it's people who might have a love for JRPGs that haven't played tabletop RPGs, this is something I would like to introduce them to. And again, the player agency, to be able to actually build a world that you have around you or have the opportunity to do that's pretty exciting for me. I wish I had known about the Kickstarter when it had been out there, because it would have been cool maybe to get a Kickstarter exclusive version of it. I am getting the Kickstarter exclusive for Girl by Moonlight here soon, because they just locked down the orders and they charged for the shipping. So I can't wait to kind of get that in there. Just real quick, Girl by Moonlight is a Forged in the Dark, so you get Blades in the Dark derivative of things like Sailor Moon, Escaflowme, and Madoka Magica. And the notions of that are just kind of really exciting for me as well.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm a big fan of Madoka Magica.
So yeah, I'm very excited for the next coming year in RPGs, because we're getting that. We're finally getting Old Gods of Appalachia, which I can't wait to get my hands on that actual book, because I want to kind of see that in its final form. But yeah, this is a really good time.
Yeah.
So much so that if I keep going on, we're going to need like 8 rest stops just to cover it. So I'm just going to stop right here and just say, if you want to experience stuff outside of the D&D umbrella for RPGs, I think you are living in as near a golden age as
we're definitely in the golden era.
Yeah, very recently, I'd seen a Kickstarter. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a tabletop RPG that was like based on Studio Ghibli movies.
Ooh.
And like the artwork was very Studio Ghibli. So that one looks cool. I think I had it saved and I just didn't end up backing it. So that's another thing.
The 3 themes in Fabula Ultima in the base book are high fantasy, natural fantasy, and techno fantasy.
Okay, yeah.
And again, that's just overarching theme, and then you build in. They also have a system called the 8 pillars, and it's the pillars upon which every one of the games should be kind of organized around, and they're specific enough to kind of give you an idea. Like, you are heroes. Like you may come from dark but you are eventually your heroes.
Yeah.
This is meant to be uplifting. This is meant to be. You can still have necessarily questionable moments, but the goal is to overcome those and to basically prevail in a world of peace. Meanwhile, the world is consistently in peril.
Yeah.
And so it consistently drives the heroes on to become more heroic and face more challenges. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic production. I cannot wait to get it to the table and get people's hands on it.
Yeah, it looks cool. But
yeah, is that you, bro?
Yeah, it better be. Good Lord.
Brady, what you been up to?
Not a whole lot. A lot of what I've been doing is getting cards together for some Lorcana decks. I pretty much got everything either ordered or it's in my deck right now. The 2 ones that I got built, because I took apart the Amber Emerald kind of aggro deck that I had, and I've put together an Amber Steel deck. The Amber Steel that's been going around, they call it Steel Songs because you have a lot of songs in there, and then you have an Ariel.
The Ariel that is able to sing for like a higher cost.
Yeah, she can sing for a higher cost, and then she can also, I think the term would be scry, so she could take some cards off top of her deck and then look for a song, so you can refill your hand a little bit easier. There's a hybrid version of that deck that's come out that also uses a lot of like the more aggressive cards that in Amber. With your Lilos and your this one card called Rockstar Stitch, to where if you ever when you play down a 2 or lower cost character, you can exhaust it to draw a card.
Exhaust the card or exhaust the stitch?
Exhaust the card, so you can play down multiple ones. Yeah, you can play down multiple ones and draw a whole bunch of cards.
Ew, that sounds gross.
And there's also a Surfer Stitch who, if you play him and you have at least 2 other characters in play, you draw 2 cards. And in this game, especially, like, the reason why the amethyst ink color is like really big right now is because there's a lot of draw in that, and there's not a lot of draw in the other ones.
But with this like Stitch build, you're just drawing.
You can draw a ton of cards, and you can answer a lot of questions. It's kind of like you can be aggressive if you need to. and
You're
you can-
refilling your hand as you're playing things.
yeah, and it's also got the Steal a Whole New World, which everybody
A Wheel of Fortune.
yeah.
Discard, draw 7.
discard, draw 7 for everybody, which is good. It's also got a lot of the removal stuff. Well, Steal is less about like straight up removal and more about like dealing damage to get rid of stuff.
Yeah, we call that conditional removal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd like to think of Steel as like a control archetype.
Steal
It's very like red for magic, like damage.
yeah, direct damage.
Direct damage.
Whereas Ruby is more about like just straight up banishing cards, or it's got what's the I think it's called Apocalypse or something where it just banishes all the characters.
Yeah, like Day of Judgment or something.
Yeah, something
Wrath
like
of
that.
God.
Wrath of
Wrath
God,
of
that's
God.
what it's
Yeah,
called.
yeah.
I don't know magic terms. I know some magic terms. I just don't know a lot of them.
Board wipes.
If they weren't, because there were some similar things. A lot of my stuff I learned from the Netrunner, so I know like tutor. I know that means to look through your deck for a specific card because there was tutor cards in there. But like there aren't board wipes in well, there's literally like one board wipe in the entirety of Netrunner.
Right.
And it's for one specific character. Like so, it didn't get played very often.
Right.
Normally, boards don't get wiped.
Well, there was like one board wipe for Magic for a very long time.
So, but I never learned
Right.
that terminology. But I know like tutor and things like that. I can't think of anything else right now. But yeah. So I've got those decks pretty much together. They're either the stuff's in the mail or I've already got it. So I'm gonna try not to spend any more money on Lorcana cards. But I think I've got the other one is a Amethyst Emerald. It's more of a control deck. It's all about drawing cards from the Amethyst stuff and then using a lot of the Emerald stuff to either get far enough ahead or keep the other person from doing stuff. There's a card, John Silver from Treasure Planet, where when he comes into play and then whenever he quests, he can give a chosen card Reckless, which means that they cannot quest and they have to attack their next turn.
You're dying, Jack.
I heard John Silver, and so I thought John Silver from the Dark Order.
No,
It's like
the
that
other
would be
John
so.
Silver.
That would be so.
I just now
awesome.
realized because usually you say Long John Silver, but I don't think they even call him Long John Silver in Treasure Planet. I think they just call him John Silver. But yeah, so it's using that. So yeah, I've got a couple of decks and some other stuff. There's a Sapphire Emerald deck that I have some cards coming for that is pretty good, pretty interesting. But yeah, so I'm doing that. I also so I finished. The last time we talked, I finished a book, and this time I guess it's technically a book, but it's really a collection of short stories called "Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke" and Other Misfortunes. It's basically 3 short stories by Eric LaRocca or LaRocca. I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name. I finished that because it's just a collection of short stories, so it's pretty quick. It was pretty quick to read. They're horror stories. They were all pretty decent. The first one, which is the titular one, is about these 2 women connecting through. One of the women is trying to sell some family kind of heirloom thing, and they strike up a conversation. So it's just a series of like emails and instant messages. This is what we, back in the day, you used to have to use the internet to do what they call instant messages, which are now what Facebook Messenger that used to be only on a computer.
Yeah, it used to be like MSN and Yahoo Messenger.
Yeah, and you had to actually get in and sign in and be on there to be
On
able
a
to talk to
desktop.
somebody.
AOL Instant Messenger.
Yeah.
I think you guys just sent messenger pigeons everywhere.
Yeah, this replaced the messenger pigeons. So, and it's just like they get into this kind of relationship with each other that takes a very dark turn. There's the next one, I can't remember what the last 2 are called, but it's about this couple who have a horrific tragedy and they're trying to get over that. And it's also set in a world where there has been scientific proof that there is no afterlife, and it's really fucked up a lot of people. And that's all like very in the background, but you can see like the ripples of how it affects just these 2 because it's a very personal story. And then the last one is this man gets into a series of bets with a neighbor that he's doesn't talk to very much, and things get weird. That one I didn't like all that much, but the other two are decent. They're okay. They're all three a quick read, and they're not like really terrifying. They're just kind of disturbing, and the implications of some of them. The first one is really kind of like there's some really weird shit with that. But yeah, those are good. And I started reading a book. So there's a lot of blind spots when it comes to like famous, like well-known, especially like sci-fi authors. And one that always comes up that I keep going like, oh, I need to read some of her stuff. And that's Octavia E. Butler. She's one of like the big sci-fi people. So a while back I picked up one of her books called The Parable of the Sower. And I started reading that one. I'm not very far into it. It's an interesting book. Stop me if you heard this one. It takes place in the mid 2020s, where a climate crisis has caused an apocalypse, and everybody is having to huddle together in their neighborhoods and fight for survival. And water is really scarce, and gas is really scarce. Nobody does it. And people, yeah. This was written in the 90s, I believe, and it is goddamn like
it did not age well.
No, it aged very well. It aged very well.
She Nostradamus that shit.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. And it's about this girl who is inflicted with what's called hyper empathy. So like anything that like she perceives anybody feeling, they don't even have to be really feeling it, but she feels it. So like, you know, if somebody is feeling some kind of anguish, she feels the exact anguish. If she sees somebody get punched, she feels the punch. Like that's how serious and kind of almost debilitating it is. Mm-hmm. And it's about her kind of. It's really interesting. It's really early in the book, so like a lot hasn't happened. It's mostly just kind of her explaining things that have been happening in their little neighborhood. And I think she like goes on kind of a journey. I think she ends up like starting a new religion or some shit. And there's also a second book in the series called The Parable of the Talents. But yeah, so I started that. So far it's pretty interesting. It's a very, it's very prescient. So yeah, that's all I've been doing. Yeah.
So,
hey Jody, what have you been doing?
Oh, thanks. So watch a couple of movies, and there's something else I want to talk about after that. So, I avoided this movie for a while. I've tried to watch it a couple of times, but I'm not like found footage. It's touch and go anyway. And the beginning of this movie, when they start doing the actual diving down into the caverns, it starts getting kind of shaky, and that kind of like leans off after a few minutes. And that's the 2014 movie As Above, So Below. So.
That's the one about the catacombs?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
That's it's set in France, where the team of mostly amateur archaeologists are trying to find the Philosopher's Stone. And it's rumored that it's somewhere hidden deep in these caverns. And basically they end up in a very metaphoric, like Dante's Inferno situation, where they're going through like the different circles of hell. Of course, our protagonists don't realize this until about halfway through the movie, where shit starts getting like really weird, and they start seeing different people see different images that they are either attached with like guilt or remorse or something that they've done wrong, and it basically either ends them or they get through it, kind of thing, or whatever. And it was all right. It was okay. It was better than I thought it was going to be overall.
I've mostly heard that it was okay.
It was okay. It wasn't like it didn't blow me out of the water. Mm-hmm. So, Jay, do you want to say something?
Me personally, I wish that the whole hell thing just wasn't there and it was just the catacombs, because the catacombs by themselves are scary as fuck.
That's how I feel 100% about the movie Descent. Because have you ever seen that?
Yes.
So up until the very end of that movie, or close to the very end of that movie, you don't really know if the main person is hallucinating or that they're really people living in the caverns until the very end when she like blows out the candle and there's people all around her. It's like, you could have just left it out and it would have been like, you would not have known, and that would have been a better point to make there, that it was probably she was delusional the whole time, and she probably caused the death of all of her friends because she thought she was seeing some shit, but there was nothing down there. But no, they ruined it by showing that there was actually something down there.
That's interesting because I never read the movie like that.
Really?
I love The Descent and I love the ending and all that. Yeah, I never read that the monsters may not have been real.
Well, that's how I perceived it. So.
I mean, it's different
because it was
things for
most of the time. If you go back and watch it, most of the time, anytime that you see anything that's supposed to be weird or hear anything that's really weird, she's the one that hears it or sees it, and convinces other people that there's something going on. So I've seen it twice. I don't hate the movie. I actually love the movie. I just hate the ending. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, I love the movie. I love the ending. I
feel the movie is saved by the ending.
Okay, well,
I don't even believe. I like the movie all the way through. I don't understand.
It was exceedingly boring, and then that ending, the twist in that ending, I actually really enjoyed.
How it's exceedingly boring.
Exceedingly boring.
I didn't think it was.
It's just a bunch of angry bitches underneath the earth. That's it.
Yeah, like the first part of it before the things even is so tense because it's so claustrophobic.
They don't. Yeah.
I guess because I didn't feel the claustrophobia of it.
Yeah, it's very.
I guess maybe. I don't know.
Part of it is I never felt they were in any danger until the ghouls show up. And then you get the realization
I don't even get that.
And then you get the realization that
before that there was a cave in.
Yeah, there was a cave in.
And then they almost got stuck.
And I did not feel they were in any danger until the ghouls, and then you find out that the only American in the entire crew is the one that set everything up, and she told them they were going to one cave when they went to another one. And that was the only time where I felt scared for them. Because literally no one knows where they are at all. Okay.
We watched a different movie, each one of us.
I guess
we may have.
So
all I know is that Brady's foundation is unshaken.
They made a sequel.
I thought it was a phenomenal movie. Yeah, don't watch the sequel.
They made a sequel. Why?
The sequel undoes everything.
Because the first movie made money.
Yeah.
That's why.
Well, it completely undoes like the really good ending because there's two endings. There was the American there was the British ending because it's a British film that went all the way, and then they cut it off early and made for the American release. So you always watch the unrated version or the director's cut because that's the real ending that's actually good.
Well, and it's also the billing for that on the DVD was always annoying to me because it's like, see the ending you were never meant to see. No, this was the ending you were meant to see.
That's like you always watch
this is the ending that the rest of the world
you always watch the director's cut of that one, and you always watch the director's cut of I Am Legend because those are the best. Those are the two best endings.
Yeah.
Like fuck Will Smith and that grenade.
I'm not a fan of that version of the story anyway.
Well, if you take the actual the good ending, like it's actually because all the stuff that they set up actually makes sense now.
I like the Vincent Price.
Movie. It's not going to compete against that shit.
Yeah,
but.
right.
Anything else, Jody?
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
I do. I watched Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Oh, yeah.
Which is directed by the guy who did Mandy.
Panos Cosmatos. I got it right this time.
There we go. Man, that movie fucked my brain.
Well, yeah, it's the guy who made Mandy.
It fucked my brain so hard. So it's set in like 1983. It was made in 2010. It was made 6 years before Stranger Things, and I'm bringing that up for specific reasons. So you have
Andy was the 80s too. He likes saying things.
He does.
That time.
You have an underground military facility that's repurposed for mad scientist shenanigans.
Yeah, as you do.
This starts in the we have a flashback sequence that explains things later on, so that our main one of our main antagonists, we see a flashback of him in the mid to late 60s, taking this experimental LSD, and all kinds of weird shit happens. And so like in the in that time period, these two doctors that are like, you know, taking a lot of drugs and doing a lot of like, you know, self-hypnosis and trying to like, you know, reach nirvana or some sort of like, you know, esoteric state of mind, like have a kid together. And so that's our protagonist.
Oh, okay.
She's like a combination of 11 from Stranger Things, and what's her name from Elfen Lied? I can't remember her name now. My brain shut off.
I know what you're talking about.
I know who
Lucy.
you're talking about.
Lucy
yeah.
from Elfen Lied. So this movie came out like 6 years before Stranger Things. There is a lot of influence here. And if it's not like, if they didn't watch this movie, I don't know what the fuck, because like the music, the way the music drones, the 80s synthesizers, the colors they use in certain aspects, the pacing of it, the doctor characters are very similar to the main doctor character from Stranger Things. So, but yeah, it was a trip. I felt like I was taking drugs. It's like it's 2 hours and it feels like it's 2 hours because like, even though it drags in certain parts, it's so like atmospheric and colorful and, you know, the tone of it and everything like that. It's really hard to explain anything, which I mean, I wouldn't want to like actually, you know, explain any more than what I have already, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I need to check it out. It's on my list. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Right.
'Cause I really like Mandy. It's one of my favorite movies, probably the last
Mandy is definitely
5-6 years.
Mandy's got like this movie literally has like no action in it, and it's like the last 5 minutes or something going on with it, but like throughout the whole movie, it's just weird shit happening.
Well, yeah. I've heard that, like, you know, with Mandy, we can explain the plot, and we've done so.
Right.
Literally,
but I've
start
heard
to finish.
this one. This one is a little bit harder to do.
It's very like philosophical and metaphysical and esoteric and very difficult to explain because a lot of it is definitely got that like, you know, mid to late 60s like psychological, psychic, and psychedelic vibe, like all of those things put together. So yeah, it's one hell of a trip of a movie for sure.
Interesting.
So yeah, Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Slightly disappointed that there's no coked out Nick Cage though.
Well, I mean, if you want coked out Nick Cage, you should watch Renfield, where he plays Dracula.
I want to watch Renfield.
It's good.
Coked out on vampirism.
Yeah, coked out on vampirism.
May I come in? Sure. No.
Nick Cage has an A24 movie coming out called Dream Scenario, and it looks batshit insane.
Hell yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
I'm definitely looking. Anything A24 puts out for the most part is.
Yeah, it's definitely, when I see that logo, I'm like, oh, okay, I might like this.
Yeah.
Let me give this a shot.
Let me watch it.
Apologies.
This just
for stepping
in. Disney is buying A24. No.
Shit.
With the whole like writers and actors strike going on,
the writer's strike is over.
Yeah, the writer's strike is over.
SAG will continue.
Yes.
SAG probably pretty soon, because I think with the writers getting pretty much.
It's interesting. They've extended the borders of it. And now they've authorized a strike against the video game companies for the voice actors.
Yeah. Which is that's
Oh.
good. That's good.
Yeah.
They need to.
Just thought I'd throw that into the world.
All right, so I think that's everything everyone's been up to this week. Jay, do we have any feedback?
We do. A good friend of the show, Jason Holder, in response to our top 5 video game bosses of all time, he mentioned Lord Nagafen, who is one of the 4 end bosses or the 4 raid bosses of the original EverQuest. And it's a good point, because if you will look at our lists, or if you remember our list from last week, if you don't have the chalkboard, which is everybody who's listening to this right now.
Stop this right now and then go back and listen to the entirety of our previous episode.
And then come back to us.
Even if you've already listened to it, listen to it again. Numbers.
You want it to be fresh while we're talking about this.
But we did not go into MMOs, and I think it's because just out of all of us, I think I may have the most MMO experience, and even I wasn't that much of a fan of MMOs.
Even if some of the games we mentioned are on PC, none of these games are PC games.
Originals. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my thing. I don't play PC games. I don't play MMOs. I don't have anything against them. I used to fucking hate them because I was insulted by the fact that I paid for this game and you want me to pay monthly.
Pay a monthly subscription to
but
play
like
the
now
game.
now that's like the least worst thing that happens with video games nowadays. So
We have like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, PS1, PS2, PS3,
yeah.
360, like
We got
all
the GameCube.
Yeah.
the GameCube
Yeah.
out
We have
there.
the Switch one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm.
So like
I think we technically have one original PC game with Undertale.
Undertale.
Yeah. It
Is-
was initially a PC.
It was
game.
originally
okay.
a
PC games.
All
right.
That's,
Yes, it
that's
was.
the closest that we get.
That's
and then
it
it
then.
almost immediately came out on other things.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
But yeah. It's just I don't play any of them, so it would have never been on any of my lists. Although I do appreciate some of them.
And just to talk a little bit about that, the uniqueness there is that it's you and either 5, 15, or 40 people going up against this
Yeah,
thing. In
right.
some cases, it's the entire server in the world of EverQuest. For me, if I had to pick an MMO boss, it'd probably be Lord Hakar from Zul'Gurub. He is the one where you get the corrupted blood debuff, which is the one that started.
The one that caused the entire pandemic.
Caused the pandemic in World of Warcraft.
Yeah, in World of Warcraft.
We need to stress that right now. World of Warcraft did not make COVID. I
Yeah.
want to make that just say right now. But however, which is weird about that, but because the way that played out in game, like the CDC and I think the World Health Organization all took that as a model of how people would deal with a actual pandemic in real game. But the thing
Did
about
we learn our lesson?
we didn't.
we never
Yeah.
learn our lesson.
Maybe the people who played World of Warcraft learned the lesson, but people who didn't.
No,
so
they
there
just
you
had
go.
flashbacks like, oh no, it's happening
But
again.
I think what I love about the
Well, they just
Hakar
did better
fight-
because they're only are inside. Like they never go outside.
What I love about the Hakar fight is that he produces these poison clouds, and antithetically, you actually have to get poisoned because then after a certain timer, he draws like blood out of you, and if you don't have the poison, he heals himself, and if you are poisoned, it removes the debuff and it poisons him and does damage to him. So you have this fighting. Stop. Go to these areas. All right, come back and then keep going. So it creates these gaps where you have to pay attention to what's going on, because if you aren't paying attention to what's going on, you could actually one or two people not doing that right can wreck an entire raid. And I like the notion of more tactics and less overall. Like strategy is your long form, but tactics in the moment, like being able to think tactically and be able to do that. There are a lot of mods that would give you the timers for that, but even then you have to be paying attention to that. Maybe you've got him down to his final 5, 3, maybe even 1%. The thing goes off. It's like, oh, I bet that we just damage it out. Is it enough? Maybe not. So yeah, for me it would have been Lord Hakar.
Okay.
But yeah, so that would be my one example.
I would
for
have
MMOs.
had no examples.
Yeah.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I don't play them, so I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I? Oh wait, this is video game bosses. Never mind. Okay.
What would you
Hold
like
on, yeah,
to
now,
say?
now my curiosity is piqued. What? yeah.
There's the South Park World of Warcraft episode where the
Oh, yeah.
Okay, moving on.
The ultimate cheater.
That's not a raid boss. That's
Yeah.
that's a person in fiction.
Yeah, that was
And
PvP,
also in
sir.
real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was PvP, sir. That
you
doesn't
go.
count with this.
Any other
He was the
feedback?
final
That
boss
is our-
for them.
That is our feedback for the week.
Where can
Cool,
they
cool,
reach
cool.
us for feedback, Jay?
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you for joining us on the bus this week. If you have friends who you think would like to have fun on the bus, absolutely bring them over. We are available on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts for now, and soon YouTube Music forever, and Amazon.
Put a big question mark on that forever. 'cause,
And maybe you can
Forever for now.
maybe you can take part and message us directly through Spotify. I don't
can.
know.
You
I'm a
can.
fucking podcast refugee. I had to move my shit from Stitcher
I got-
to get to Google
we mentioned
Podcasts.
this- we mentioned
and
this
now I'm
off
gonna have to
mic.
move all my shit to fucking YouTube Music. This is like I have no home for my podcast.
We mentioned this off mic.
I'm a person without a home.
When I saw the email for that, I was like, "Oh no,
I
Brady!"
just have to keep immigrating. Maybe YouTube music lasts forever. Who the fuck knows?
You're
Maybe they
like-
get swallowed up by somebody else.
You're like the villager in Norway that every village he moves to keeps getting raided by Vikings,
I'm like
and you just have to
fucking-
keep moving
I'm
further
like
down
the
the
fucking
Censored.
cut that, please.
Censored.
There we go. I was waiting for it.
Coming back in 3, 2, 1. Maybe Disney will buy Google and it'll be called
it's-
Dougal.
Yeah, and then I'll have to move it to Disney Podcasts. Fucking great. I thought when I moved it to Google Podcast, this will be a safe spot. Because Google stuff is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Happy 25th anniversary, Google.
Yeah. Leonardo DiCaprio no longer wants to date you.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true. He will admit it.
Although inflation's got him, he is dating a 25-year-old now.
Yeah. Also, I've heard he has a contract they have to sign
That doesn't surprise me.
because palimony is a thing in California.
Dane Cook married his 24-year-old girlfriend at the age of 51. They've been dating for 6 years. Please don't do that math.
I'm more concerned by the fact. Have you seen how bloated he is now? I can't say fat.
Right.
Do the
Bloated.
math and then be more concerned with that.
Censored.
Okay.
If you
Jay-
have any feedback for us, ladies and gentlemen, travelers on the omnibus at gmail.com. Again, that is travelers, 1L on the omnibus at gmail.com. Take part in any of our polls and questions on any of our episodes. We greatly appreciate it.
Are you okay, Jody?
I'm fucking dying.
Swat those Pepsi bugs away from me.
Yeah, like, have you finally gotten over the Pepsi bug attack?
Yes.
You were hacking up every lung in this room.
That is true. It went
Two
right,
of yours, one of Ethan's,
right
half
down my
of,
windpipe.
half of mine.
I had to
Good
drink
God.
almost my whole entire Barks root beer.
I like how you used Barks
Yeah.
to counteract Pepsi products.
I had,
It
yeah.
is confirmed. Barks defeats Pepsi.
It does
Barks will cure dropsy.
it has bite.
Jesus Christ.
All right, so with that all said, I think we're about to head on over to our main topic. So practical effects have been around for a while in movies.
You would say they were
Someone
there
say
at the
since
dawn
the
of
beginning.
At the very beginning.
Yes.
And so we're talking about from practical to pixels. We're talking about practical effects and basically like CGI and
The
things
comparisons.
like, and how like which works in certain situations, where it failed in certain situations in certain
Yeah.
movies and things of that nature. So yeah, practical effects was definitely at the beginning because that was the only way they could.
But even then, there were like camera tricks that were used.
There were camera
what was it?
tricks.
Lumiere, yeah, who did like From the Earth to the Moon.
For the Earth to the Moon with the
Like he did, he was a
rocket.
magician, so like
Yeah.
he did like little things. Because there's like a video of like this guy like getting up, and there's like copies of him, and it's just he shot the same thing through the same film,
right.
and things like that.
And then you have also Lon Chaney basically invented makeup effects for the most part in the original Hunchback and original Phantom of the Opera silent films.
Yeah,
and London by Midnight.
And London by Midnight, which
Greatest
is,
lost film of all
it's
time.
a movie that nobody can watch because it was burned in a
But
fire.
you've seen stills of that vampire, and God, he was exceptional.
Yeah.
Good
Right.
Lord.
Before we get too much into this, I do want to. We did mention about the writer strike and the actor strike earlier. Even though we're probably going to shit on some people with this because there are some like bad special effects, but these people do like put a lot of work into it. Even like shitty special effects, they probably worked 100-hour weeks to get this shit. And we mentioned unions earlier. Marvel VFX workers just very recently in the last couple of weeks voted to unionize, and I think that's actually a good thing because there is like a lot of stress put on these people, and they're not really given enough time, especially nowadays. Like they're really using these people, but like regardless of whether they're good or bad, like these people, this isn't about these people. It's just like they weren't given the resources or they weren't given the time usually.
I mean, look at the finished project with the Black Panther movie.
Yeah, like that fell apart towards the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just wanted to bring that up. Like we're not shitting on anybody who are actually special effect. Like I appreciate anybody, even down to somebody who's done like really shitty work. Like sometimes you just don't have the time nor the
Resources.
The resources.
Art is subjective. Like what you end up producing may not appeal to our tastes, but the fact that you put your blood and sweat into it under from what some reports are, nightmarish like deadlines, nightmarish anybody working in that, God bless you, and I hope you get everything you deserve. And I mean that in the most absolute good way I can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
As far as practical effects go, like some of the earlier ones that I've always been a fan of, because they add a bit of surreal quality to trick photography, is matte paintings. Speaking of artists, the studio or the project would have an artist that would specifically paint on different panes of glass to make it look like you were like in the world that you were seeing, such as like in The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Those were all matte drawings and matte paintings.
Yeah. And this is something that's kind of comparing this to something to what it is now. That's kind of gone the way of the dodo. I think in some ways, unfortunately, where you've got the stuff like what they did with The Mandalorian, where they had the LED panels that were like surrounding the actor. And I think they did this on Dune as well. The Villeneuve Dune. I think they used the LED panels to like surround them and like do parts of the background, which it works well when it works, and sometimes it like in The Mandalorian and correct me if I'm wrong, Dune, it works really well, but it does. It's a crutch oftentimes that they will lean on and not use well.
Yeah, other giant scoped scenes that were used with matte was Neverending Story with the Sphinxes.
Yeah.
Certain scenes in Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy, used matte paintings and things of that
Most
nature.
of the older fantasy movies use them.
Yeah, and those were like, some of those weren't even like glass. They were like just drawings with the hole cut out the bottom.
See our review of Barbarians. They get the use out of that one matte painting.
Yeah, and that castle in the distance is always at the same distance.
Yeah.
And as far as like also practical effects, like trick photography, as it were, was used as recently as the Lord of the Rings trilogy, where they used different perspective to make the hobbits look smaller than they were in different scenes.
Yeah.
I think very small.
A good comparison of that is how they used a lot of practical effects in Lord of the Rings, and then they went very heavily into CGI with The Hobbit, and there's a massive difference between this. They did use a lot of CGI in the Lord of the Rings, but but there was always practical stuff mixed in too, and they did a lot of like. Just look the behind the scenes of where they did the Gandalf and Frodo scene where they're like sitting at a table and the camera's moving around, and they had to make everything to where it moved to where the perspective stayed the same to where it looked like Frodo was smaller. And then you fucking get the Hobbit movies where Sir Ian McKellen, I'm sorry, is sitting there with just a fucking green screen. He just kind of starts like crying and going like, how are you supposed to do this? There's nothing here. I don't understand this. He almost broke the poor man. But a lot of that had to do with there was a lot of like pre-production changes that made them have to like do things a little bit cheaper and quicker than what they normally would.
Right, and like another like sometimes there's like happy accidents when it comes with practical effects. Like for example, when they started making Jurassic Park, the original Jurassic Park from '93. They were already like making practical dinosaurs out of rubber and prosthetics and things of that nature, when at the same time ILM was making better
also
technology.
doing stop motion.
Right. And ILM was making better technology. So they basically, like, because of cost effectiveness and because of the look and everything, they combined practical effects and CGI and miniatures and stop motion.
Yeah. Well, they decided to not go with the stop motion when they actually saw what they were able to do with the CGI. But they still used a lot of practical, because there's like the giant Tyrannosaurus, which notoriously, when it would rain, well, they had water in this because it was a raining scene, so it would cause it to malfunction. In that scene where it busts through the glass, it wasn't actually supposed to go all the way through. It malfunctioned, and they kept that. So those kids are really terrified.
Yeah.
So
Rightfully so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jay, tell us a little bit about Industrial Light and Magic.
No.
Okay.
I really don't.
All right.
I don't like them. I don't like any of them. They're all dead and gone, and I'm glad for it.
Jesus.
Okay, sure.
That was kind of brutal, wasn't it?
It was.
Industrial Light and Magic is I think the last great hurrah for practical effects in movies, just in general, at least in my opinion, what they did in that 20 years between 1977 and like the end, like the right at the start of the 2000s, is some of the best practical effects you'll ever see. The fact that Star Wars looked as good as it did in 1977, it was involved of a great deal of dedication and a great deal of very intelligent men and women that were able to stage these things based off of real world things. Like you look at the trench run. The trench run and the dogfighting there is based off of World War II footage.
Yeah,
completely, thoroughly, 100%. There are a lot of science purists like this isn't how it would be in space because it would. Shut up. They have magic swords. That's my answer to that. But yeah, you have these, and they were thrilling. You're caught by it because, and there's also with Star Wars, I think more so than any other. A New Hope now, but the original Star Wars more so than any of the other films. There is no split focus. There is no like Empire Strikes Back. You have the battle between Luke and Vader, and then Leia and Chewie and C-3PO and R2-D2's escape from Cloud City. So you have two splits there. You have the three splits in the Return of the Jedi, but with the space battle, with the ground battle on the Force Moon of Endor, and the battle between Luke and Vader and the Emperor, and they just kept separating things out. Maybe not even more so like. In the second film, you have in the second film in the prequels, Attack of the Clones, you have the Battle of Geonosis actually, and then you have this smaller battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin versus Count Dooku, and then eventually Yoda comes in there too. So, but the purest to a ending, in my opinion, was always good. It was the original, and what made it so good is the focus and the execution is just top notch. Yes, they've added more CGI effects, and I think that's a good place to kind of explain to it because in 1995 you got the special edition re-releases. Yep. The approach to the Death Star is done in CGI. And to me, I think those hold up very well, and they compare very well with with CGI. Well, rather with the
models,
models that they originily had.
Right.
I think that the added additions in, but there's still a lot of that old footage that was still mixed in with that. And I think it does and ILM did a very good job. That is the house where you have the end of practical effects and the beginning of CGI. Yeah. And to me, the turning point, we've already mentioned it, is Jurassic Park. Yeah. Jurassic Park, I could not tell you where the CGI is. I could from if it's a faraway shot, it's probably CGI, and then and the more is more practical.
Right.
But they do a very good job of making the CGI not look CGI. Yeah. It's typically cast in shadow or in darkness. It's typically further away from the camera than it is up close.
I think the only obvious one is like the run where you see all the dinosaurs running past Sam Neill.
The day stuff doesn't hold up as well, but it still holds up than a lot of stuff, like even 10 years ago.
Right. And then even then, it's very fast dinosaurs that are all scampering past them, so you don't have enough time to focus on them.
The Brachiosaurus that you see, the very first thing that you see, like to us today, like this doesn't look that great, but it still looks pretty solid.
Right.
And it's again still better than some stuff that were coming out in like the 2010s. It's still but like the dark stuff was like very hard.
Better than some of the stuff that's coming out.
Today. Yeah.
Like,
see,
it just
Ant-Man
is.
Quantumania.
Yeah,
it's still used as like a benchmark for what.
Oh yeah. It's
Quantumania is on a back foot too because everything in that thing has to be CGI.
Yeah.
Like nearly everything.
So
like that is the Attack of the Clones of the Marvel universe.
A lot of what they do with the Marvel stuff is they have a second unit director, and them and the VFX people all do all the VFX shots beforehand. So most of that stuff is done before possibly even before they get a director. So that's why sometimes that's very disjointed and stuff like that, and that's why it feels very assembly line in a lot of ways, and that's kind of why the quality has dipped, especially recently. With the last few movies, I mean, for God's sakes, with the Eternals, like Chloe Zhao, like amazed the fucking heads of Marvel because she said, "Hey, let's shoot some of this shit outside," and they were like, "What is that? We don't even know that existed."
Natural lighting.
What the fuck is that?
I don't see a green screen out here.
Speaking of natural lighting, there's some scenes in like whether or not you like them as a whole, the prequels also have like a nice mishmash.
That's where Lucas was going like full, because like Attack of the Clones is like the first fully digital movie, like done on digital with the digital camera.
Every scene in the movie, they make a point of this. For them, it is to the better. To me, it is to the worst. Every shot in that movie has some digital shot in it.
Yeah.
At that point,
they were still doing some practical sets though, but a lot of like the stuff.
Initially, the title for this was going to be From Plastic to Pixels, and one of the reasons why I was kind of like, when I heard it, I was like, okay, wait a minute, we may need to workshop this some more. Is because that Attack of the Clones looks plastic to me. It looks inauthentic. It doesn't look natural.
Right.
And that's where when CGI succeeds, it's you don't even notice it. Like know. You don't notice it, and your brain also doesn't notice it.
Yeah.
When your brain notices it, and you have that disconnect inside your brain of this is specifically not real.
Yeah.
That is like, for example, like the practical alien and alien mother from Alien and Aliens versus the alien that you get at near the end of Prometheus. You can tell that is computer.
Well, the Alien and Alien 3 was mostly digital as well.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I've only seen that movie once in the theater, and I never went back.
Yeah, it was mostly practical. The earlier one, I'm sorry, it was
Mostly
CGI.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
A good one with this is the to compare and contrast with this is the quote unquote original, because it isn't really a remake, but everybody knows it from the original The Thing versus the newer The Thing, which is a prequel, but it's named the same.
That was Rick Baker, wasn't it? For
the original one,
The Thing.
I think it was Rick Baker.
So.
Talking, I'll find out.
That is like
there's like two dudes.
One of like the standards. The original The Thing is like one of the standards for practical effects. They did so much stuff.
They did.
I mean the scene where he's using the paddles.
He has the paddles
and he pushes them in, and then it eats off his arms.
Yeah.
Like they gotta know, like they got somebody with no arms to play that, so it would all look real.
Yeah.
And like the puppetry and everything with that. And then you have the newer The Thing, which came out in the 2010s.
Prequel.
Yeah, the prequel. Which is called the same fucking name.
Right.
It really annoys me. God damn it.
2011 thing.
It's full of like CGI garbage. But the interesting thing is, if you watch the behind the scenes, they created practical effects for everything. All of the stuff has practical effects, and then the studio came in and told them, no, we need to do this CGI, put CGI over everything. And that's one of the, I've seen behind the scenes stuff of this, and the practical effects actually look pretty good. And then they had to paste over it with all of these really bad CGI.
Right.
But there's a big difference when you watch the original one, and like the head thing is like actually growing legs and moving towards him, and you're like, oh shit. But versus this
blobby,
this blob thing that vaguely looks human, because the uncanny valley has started like triggering in our brains, and it's like, I don't like this.
Like the scene where like it's starting to like appear in like in like the barn with the dog, and like how it's starting to like tear apart and reveal it's over, like that right there is like what's like
there's so much like, oh my god, this is so gross, and but you can't stop looking at it.
It's impressive, it's convincing.
Yeah, you're like, how the fuck did they even do any of this? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
The thing, Rob Botton, who was Baker's assistant, this practical
that
effect.
makes
And
sense.
another thing, going back to 1982, the shots are quick. The shots are typically in the dark.
Right.
They're not lingering.
You don't linger on anything too. Like, it's there. Like, it's like a head crab scuttles off and then immediately gets lit on fucking fire.
Yeah.
And so it goes along with the horror where it shocks you and you don't get a lot of time to think about it, because if you could think about it, you can process it. If you process it, it's no longer frightening.
It's a less is more.
Move on to the next thing and keep everything unknown. Fantastic work from Botton as the physical effects guy, but also from Carpenter, from knowing, keep this to where they can't think about it, because the moment they're allowed to think about it, that's when they'll go, nope, it's done.
Yeah.
And that's like where CGI fails for me is when it's like used fully a lot, especially in horror movies.
Yeah.
Like the movie Splice. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
That's a good response. It's not a very good movie. It's a movie where they basically like
it gets creepy.
It gets real creepy. They make a life form.
Yeah.
And they can't get it to work. And without her knowing, this couple, are both scientists.
I think the guy doesn't know. I think the girl.
The girl knows.
Yeah.
She puts her own DNA in the thing to make it work, and they basically like.
I think she puts
I know what you're
both
talking
of their
about.
DNA.
It might have been.
in
It
there.
might be both.
I know what you're
Because
talking about.
the
Yeah.
reason it's really creepy is
Yeah.
because the guy has sex with the thing
Yeah.
later.
Right.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're
Yeah, it's
talking
real
about.
weird.
And it's really like,
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like a combination of like a rabbit and an alien.
Yeah.
Person.
But then they do like some practical stuff with like her face and everything. But then
Yeah.
they add in a lot of like extra stuff because she like grows wings and shit.
Yeah.
It's like,
And it looks awful.
yeah.
yeah,
And it doesn't look
I
good.
know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like so, another really good topic on practical effects, stop motion. We've talked about Ray Harryhausen before.
Yep.
Big fan of all. Pretty
We
much
had a whole
everything.
episode on stop motion.
Yeah, a big fan of Ray Harryhausen. We won't go into like a bunch of that, but like Clash of the Titans from '81, and the Jason and the Argonauts, and Sinbad and the Seventh Voyage.
Seven Voyages. Sinbad.
Yeah, Seven
So,
Voyages
yeah.
of Sinbad.
All that stuff, fucking fantastic.
Yep.
Here's a quick little icebreaker.
Sure.
What was the first movie to use CGI?
The first movie to use CGI.
I just looked this up.
Okay, then shut up. Let the old
Yeah.
men try to go about this. I will give you a hint.
Tron?
It was just the opening credits for the movie.
Oh, okay. It wasn't Tron then.
It was not Tron.
Okay.
Tron is a good thing to talk about here.
Right. We will touch
Yeah.
on Tron in a
Because
second.
that also has a good bit of practicality to it when we talk about rotoscoping. here in a little bit.
Rotoscoping, light effects, and things like that.
I feel like I should know this, and I somewhere deep down inside I knew it, but I don't. I can't.
It's a
think.
Hitchcock film.
Oh.
Okay. Was it what was one of the later ones? I don't know.
The Bird.
Vertigo.
Vertigo.
Okay,
Vertigo's
yeah.
opening credits are computer generated images.
Oh wow.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is very interesting.
1958.
Right.
Yeah.
That one shocked me. That literally did, because I don't think of any, like, first of all, anything before 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I
Yeah.
think of special effects and in the use of computers, even though there's all of that's practical in 2001.
Yeah.
the idea that there was
everything is
computer
practical in 2001.
Yeah. CGI prior to that blows my mind, but yeah, in the 50s, like they began starting experiment with that in the beginning.
Yeah. The stuff with the Stargate in 2001, that was completely practical.
Yeah.
They do a really cool thing with a floating pin, and the actress like picks the pin out of the thing.
Yeah.
And it was done on a clear sheet of glass, and they taped it on there with clear tape, and and she took it off of there. Like they did a lot of like really interesting, like very simple things to make like pretty crazy effects, just little things, and you're like, oh yeah, nowadays I would take that for granted, but like that was done in the fucking 60s. And it looked fucking real, like it was like they were weightless.
Yep.
He was also one of the first guys to like actually build the humongous rotating set to make it look like they were when he was running
When
around.
it was doing
and-
the walk and run. Yeah.
Now, one of my low key favorite films of all time, Tron, was just mentioned. So that is another where we have this blending of practical effects along with CGI. The CGI, of course, stands out more here. Of course, it's early 1980s video game CGI,
Yeah.
which for me is what kind of like
The aesthetic of that.
it enamors me to the film
Yeah.
as much
Yeah.
as it does. The process of getting their suits to look like that, because I had the Tron DVD with all the
With the
extras back
special
then.
behind the scene.
And they would go like you'd have basically 4 composite shots that they would have to layer on top of one another, which included the rotoscoping of the light inside. It's amazing to me how that got made. Nowadays, if there's one thing to say for CGI, it makes things a lot easier.
Yeah.
It just does. Like, I think you wouldn't have that same problem in nowadays. Like, you look at Tron Legacy. Tron Legacy, is made primarily on a green screen room. But the things that they're able to accomplish with that when they're actually like from an artistic standpoint, for me, Tron Legacy was one of the best science fiction movies I've ever seen. Again, from the aesthetic, from the actual effects in that movie. One of the best science fiction movies I've ever seen, and one of the best 3D movies I've ever seen.
I never watched it in 3D.
When the 3D option was available, like in the theaters, it's like I have to go see, because I love Tron, and you got Jeff Bridges coming back.
Tron Legacy is underrated.
It is.
The notion,
although there's a bad CGI in that with the young.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's another one.
They do very good stuff with most of the stuff. 95% of Tron Legacy.
If they didn't have the initial scene,
the bedroom scene,
scene, which I know why that's there. It's to set up the fact that Clue is good Lord, I can't think of his name. I know Tron.
John
Fuck.
something or another.
Flynn.
Yeah, Flynn.
Yeah.
They have to, because he looks like, because Clue looks like Flynn,
right?
Same way Tron looks like Alan,
right?
And so which is it's always been kind of a cool thing, I thought, as far as that goes. But you have to establish that in order to establish that later Clue looks like and it would look like a younger
Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges. That being said, no.
Yeah, they could have done something completely different with that.
It looks plastic.
It does, because there is an opening scene in The Departed, which Departed came out in 2006. Like Legacy came out in like 2010 or something like that. There's a scene where you see a younger Jack Nicholson, and it's all done with makeup and lighting effects, and they used a minute amount of CGI just to get rid of the wrinkles, and it looked fine. It looked good.
Yeah.
They didn't do that with Jeff Bridges and Tron Legacy.
I think of X-Men 3, and I think the scene where they go to meet Jean Grey when she's a child, and that one was way more like prominent as far as, okay, something is not right about this, because Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart look flat. They don't look younger. They look flatter, and that was just weird.
Another one that it got praised for this, but I argue that it didn't do it very well, and it's a more recent movie. Martin Scorsese's The Irishman has Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci as younger people.
I haven't seen the movie, but I have heard this.
It's fine. You don't have to. I think it's his most overrated movie. I really didn't like it at all.
I won't watch it because it hits that 3-hour mark, and I can't.
I understand. I lose. This one is very self-indulgent.
As good as Scorsese is, and to me, I think he's got the right to be a little self-indulgent, but self-indulgent in 2 hours. 3 hours, no, it goes too far.
I think it's absolutely self-indulgent, but like Goodfellas was almost 3 hours, and Casino was 3 hours, and those are both very good. But
I won't watch Casino though.
Casino is of his mob movies. It's my favorite one. It's not my favorite Scorsese movie, but they de-aged them, and it doesn't. It looks okay, but then you have the problem with it's on like an 80-year-old's body, so they're still moving, and he's supposed to be like maybe 25, and he's still like moving, and it's very there's a lot of like disconnect with that.
It's very uncanny valley-ish,
and there is still that smoothness that really is like, ew, I don't like this. But then you have with de-aging with Samuel L. Jackson and Captain Marvel, which looks phenomenal, because I think they used a little bit of practical stuff with his hair, but then they use CGI to de-age him, and it looks good. Like, you really, if you didn't know he was older, you probably couldn't tell. Like, if you had never seen Samuel L. Jackson, you couldn't tell that anything was up with that.
Going back to where Jay pointed out how they did that with like Charles Xavier in X-Men 3. They did the same thing in Origins Wolverine, like the very end, and he just looks all plasticky and like artificial. Like it didn't even look like him.
But I will say, like, when it comes to like aging somebody up, a lot of times practical effects don't work.
But no, they're like de-aging him, and
de-aging can sometimes work with practical effects, but aging also, like on the other end, because you look at we mentioned Prometheus, Guy Pearce in Prometheus in old man makeup looks terrible, and that was a practical effect. I don't know why they felt like they had to do Guy Pearce in old man makeup instead of just getting
I
an
don't
old
know
man
why
for
they
that.
felt they had to use Guy Pearce.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that against the actor.
They did- they did-
I mean that as against the younger man.
Right.
Yeah, they did promo videos where he played that same character.
I saw those promos,
and and hardly anybody saw those fucking promos, but they were like, we gotta keep Guy Pearce. So instead of just getting an older actor, which
Right.
I don't understand that.
They
I'll
could
tell
have,
you,
they
like-
could have done an audio with an older actor, and those just an audio, just
Yeah.
like these are the transcripts of whoever Wayland is.
You know who did aging really well with makeup?
What's that?
Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh, okay.
In like different episodes.
One of the worst age ups I have ever seen is from Star Trek: The Next
Oh, yeah?
Generation. It is.
Okay.
They got a 20-year-old, like 20 to 25-year-old man, and they aged him to like 90 something, and it looks fucking horrible.
Maybe not that one, but
The guy who was the old grandfather in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, he was actually like 23, 25. Like
Right.
he was like the youngest person in
right with that
on
mask
the cast,
on. And
which is funny, but that kind of works because it's kind of over the top, and
Right.
you see a dude with wearing a skin on his face as a mask,
and also
so you're already-
shot in darkness, shot in shadows.
Yeah.
Right.
So you
well,
can
everything's
play around
like
with the
there's
imagery.
there's almost a film to the film where it's just like
Yeah.
this is like grimy and
Right.
and that works.
Mark Borchardt, who's the focus of a great movie called American Movie. I think everybody should watch it. But he talks about that during that movie and says it looks like something you would see in science class. So yeah, I think there's just a lot of what can really do is how cohesive everything kind of looks. Like if you have a piece of CGI that is obviously CGI in just like a regular place, that's going to look faker than if you try to bring the theme together throughout everything.
Yeah.
One movie that I absolutely love, for this movie specifically, you have to use CGI. Like the way they did the aliens in District 9.
Oh yeah,
I-
that's a phenomenal use
Yeah,
of CGI.
those are like so good.
It
Yeah.
is amazing how low budget that movie is and how good everything looks.
Yeah.
And it is also amazing that Neil Blomkamp had one movie.
that
and
is
that's it.
true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Elysium was not good.
All of his other movies were also not good.
But then it goes back
I
to the end.
wanted to throw that in.
But
out
yeah,
into the world.
I thought about putting that on here, but I already have like a page full of shit. So I was like,
But that alien looks grimy, and again, like District 9, because of what it's a bombed out slum of South
Yeah.
Africa.
Yeah.
The look of the movie is cohesive throughout, and the alien fits perfectly
yeah,
in there.
yeah.
Something where I think that really just stands out as far as how bad it goes. Ooh, what's a good one? What's a really good one? Just as far as I can't think of one. I may have to table that one.
Table it.
go.
Yeah, I mean, usually, unless you're talking about low budget, it doesn't. It's not normally like as bad.
Yeah.
As we.
I tend to forgive low budget more because it's low budget.
Right.
Yeah.
That's understandable.
Yeah, but I also really appreciate when somebody does a lot with a little.
With a little bit of money.
That's why I really love District 9 is one of my favorite movies.
I do love District 9 quite a lot.
So low budget, let's go to high budget, and let me talk about real quick a franchise that actually has used a lot of practical effects, and then as slowly as the movies have gone have drifted more into just massive amounts of CGI, and that's the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Okay.
Well, you can't put a car practically in space with people inside of it.
Okay, but in Fast and the Furious 5, the bank vault where they're sliding the bank vault, that's real.
Yeah,
none of that is
100%.
CGI. They really slid a bank vault. The tank in Final Fantasy and God, I have FF, so it's fucking me up.
Kefka's driving a tank, people.
Fast and the Furious 6. Don't ask me to name them exact. I don't watch the movies, but I know a little bit about them. If these are wrong, write your local congressman. The tank. There's a tank chase where this tank.
Yeah.
That's a real tank, and they souped it up to where it went from 30 miles per hour as its max speed up to 60 miles per hour. So it's really like running over shit. And of course, like the earlier ones, they did a lot of like practical effects with that because CGI in the late 90s wasn't as good. But later on, as people would argue, like the quality has kind of dipped for the friend, like because it was so bombastic and crazy, and they were doing all these real stunts that it was actually kind of cool. But now it's more of like most of the stuff in the last couple of Fast and the Furiouses have just been CGI nonsense.
They one up themselves into
and people haven't
do that.
Yes, let's parachute cars out of a cargo plane and land on the road going instantly 80 miles an hour.
And like it's so they've gone from like these really cool stunts and people have been like it's this franchise that has gotten like a lot of buzz and everything to people have been like these last couple, especially 9 I've heard people like talk really bad and like it's missing something. And a big thing is that none of this feels real. It feels like I'm watching a video game, and I don't like that.
This was said almost, I think, more than a year ago at the Supercast, but I'll say it again. Fast 9 has a scene where a flying car takes off of a mountain, and a non-flying car chases it by ramming the support of a rope bridge so that it wraps around one of the wheel axles so that they can then swing Tarzan style with the car to chase the flying car.
Yeah.
What?
They knew that was going to happen. That's why they did it.
Yeah.
So we were like stumped for a second on like really bad examples of not low budget but higher budget. Well, one low budget and one higher budget. So I'll start with the lower budget one first because this movie has aged like an egg outside of a refrigerator for 6 months. The Lawnmower Man.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
Have you not heard of The Lawnmower Man with Jeff Fahey?
You're saying the Lawnmower Man.
The Lawnmower Man.
What did you think he was saying other than the lawnmower?
No, I'm just confirming that's what I'm
This is based
hearing.
on a Stephen King short.
Oh, yeah.
Let me really quickly. So this guy calls up a guy to cut his grass,
Okay,
and the guy comes out
I'm following.
and he eats his grass, and that's the Lawnmower Man.
Yeah, it's a satyr.
Now
It's
what
a
do you
satyr.
now what do you
Okay.
now what do you think the Lawnmower Man movie is about?
Everybody shut up. This is Ethan's time.
Okay, so the short.
Give me a scene. Give me a scene from the Lawnmower Man.
Just give me an elevator pitch.
Okay, an elevator pitch. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm imagining like a door-to-door salesman as like
Yeah, that's a knock on a door.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Door opens
Okay.
like, hello there, sir. I've noticed that your grass is extremely long. May I cut it for you for a small fee?
Okay.
He's like, sure, have at it. And he just like gets on all fours and just starts eating the grass.
Okay, that's good. How about we put a mentally challenged man's brain into cyberspace and he becomes mad with power?
What?
And then Pierce Brosnan has to go in there and fight him in cyberspace.
Yeah.
He left out the merging of the minds.
Yeah. Instead of Stephen King's original story, they basically did Flowers for Algernon, except evil.
They went, oh, that's the cool name for the story. I don't have time to read this. Let's do something else.
So that was because the mentally the way they link it is the mentally challenged man mows lawns.
Yeah, he's
the Lawnmower Man.
He mows lawns in front of the virtual reality laboratory that
just so happens to be next door.
I feel like
Yeah.
I got pitched the sequel to Fast 10.
There's a sequel to The Lawnmower Man, but we're not getting into
The
that.
Lawnmower Man 2.
Job's
Just in case.
War.
Job's War.
Job's,
Yeah.
So here's
Job's
the thing.
World.
Here's a scene in The Lawnmower Man, Ethan. So Jeff Fahey starts getting smarter because he's been in the virtual reality machine.
I don't
Yes.
think I want to know this.
He convinces this like lady who's weirdly lusting after him when he's anyway. They both get into VR machines, and in the machine they turn into dragonflies and then merge together as one.
Yeah.
That happened.
It's really like this is back when we didn't really understand what cyberspace meant.
Yep.
So there's all these like
Also,
so it's all CGI stuff, and it's really
bad
looks
CGI.
now
really
you may
bad.
be wondering where the satyr went.
Okay, yeah. Would you like to explain to me where the satyr went? Let me guess, it wasn't included.
That's fair.
Jay, edit this when he comes up with something funny.
Okay.
On the other spectrum, we have a high budget movie that misused CGI in the worst case scenario possible, and that is the Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Where like anytime Ryan Reynolds was the Green Lantern, it was a CGI Ryan Reynolds the whole time for the most part.
And he fought a giant
cloud.
And he drew a giant fart cloud.
There's a YouTube channel.
For me personally, it's the worst superhero movie of all time.
It is really fucking bad.
Hal Jordan, Green Lantern is my favorite superhero.
He is up there for me.
What they did with that was just
Also in the before Marvel started getting good, the Incredible Hulk movie, the Hulk movie, which there are cool parts in that movie where they do the comic book transitions from scene to scene. That's it though. There's a scene in that movie where who is it? Who's the main bad?
Nick Nolte.
Nick Nolte. Nick Nolte turns into a giant puddle of floating water that's computer generated.
The absorbing man.
Yeah.
The Hulk in that looks good.
Yeah, the Hulk in that looks good.
Honestly,
everything else that CGI. He fights giant gamma irradiated dogs. And what you can see of that, I watched that in theaters when it came out, and you still couldn't see anything. It was a night scene, and the CG, and it was so darkly lit that you could not see anything in the theater. This is Ang Lee. This is Ang fucking Lee, who good CGI made The Life of Pi, which is some phenomenal art. CGI use with the tiger and all of the art direction. Everything is fucking CGI in that, and it all looks so fucking good. And this was so bad. Now there was a lot of time in between that, but again, like man, there's some bad shit in that.
There's some awful shit in that.
There's
movie.
a YouTube channel that I like watching, Cordo Crew, that they watch movies with CGI and they kind of like review it, see how it's done, see what they could have done to make it better, and they tore up the Green Lantern movie.
Oh yeah,
that one's easy target.
Yeah, that one's absolutely horrible.
Where does the Mortal Kombat movie stand on this?
Good
CGI, bad CGI.
Okay.
Which one are we talking about?
Both of them mostly have bad CGI. I think the first one is like a decent movie with some kind of bad CGI. The Annihilation.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you something right now. Have you seen the last Mortal Kombat movie that came out?
I didn't care
I did.
I'm going to tell you, have you seen Annihilation?
Yes.
Okay. The reptile from Annihilation looks better than the reptile from the movie that came out 2 years ago.
I don't even remember.
I'm not kidding.
I full on disagree with that.
I don't even remember Reptile in the new
It was...
one.
you don't remember it was like he was in like that one scene where Jax and Sonya Blade were like with Kano in the trailer, and he's like invisible for like 30 seconds here and there, and then shows his face, and then they kill him, and then Kano goes, "Sonya Blade, I killed your partner." No, that didn't happen.
I remember. I blocked that out.
It's bad.
Oh, no.
Original Mortal Kombat was going to have 3 less fight scenes in it. One of them being the Johnny Cage Scorpion fight, which to me arguably is one of the better fights in the movie.
Absolutely.
Wasn't going to be in the movie. That had to be written in, and 2 other fights had to be written in. I think the Liu Kang versus Reptile, the one where he's the actual person. They had that amazing fight in that.
That was
in
a
that
good fight,
tomb.
too.
That is such a great. All of those I think were choreographed by Robin Shou, who was Liu Kang in that movie, and was the one that was asking, this movie needs more fights. It's literally called Mortal Kombat. Even if you've never seen the fucking video game, there's combat in the fucking title. Like, what the fuck? Mortal Kombat 1 is saved by being a very well choreographed kung fu movie. I would argue it's on par with Bloodsport, except that they don't have.
That's going to make a lot of people mad.
As far as the choreography goes, I believe for the actual fights. I'm not talking
They
about
had some good fights.
I'm not talking about any special effects. I'm talking about like get rid of all that. I'm talking about the choreographed fights in those movies is some of the best choreographed fights, and I believe they're on par with Bloodsport. I legitimately believe that. The reason also why I bring up Bloodsport is because that was actually the idea for Mortal Kombat. Johnny Cage, who was played by Johnny Cage was actually inspired by Jean-Claude Van Damme. They tried to get his rights in order to actually put him in the actual game, and ended up not working out.
Right.
Almost 30 years later, he is going to be in Mortal Kombat 1, so that's going to be kind of cool.
There's another movie that influenced them too.
There was a bunch of
Big Trouble in Little China influenced like half of the fucking cast
the Raiden
as well.
looks exactly like one of those guys.
Big Trouble, but Ed Boon and John Tobias still, like to this day, say that it was actually almost going to be a Bloodsport video game.
No, I believe
and
that.
They changed it, and
I
they
believe
changed it
that.
around, and thank God, because what they created out of it was a pastiche of originality that became Mortal Kombat.
Well, the main magician guy from Big Trouble in Little China is like Shang Tsung.
Oh yeah.
Well, Shang Tsung is also just like that's every like, and I hate it, almost bordering on racist, especially with the Fu Manchu sorcerer from so many kung fu movies of the 70s.
Oh
too.
yeah. But not a sorcerer supreme kind of character though. That's straight up Big Trouble in Little China. But let's see, and that's another movie that has some amazing practical effects.
John Carpenter movies like are
80s John Carpenter movies
are gonna have he kind of loses it with some of the later stuff.
Once it crossed into the 90s, that's
Vampires was rough.
Yeah, and Escape from LA had some rough. The surfing scene was
the surfing scene. I have to believe that was done for laughs.
I almost think there's a lot in Escape from LA that was done tongue in cheek. It was just kind of like this will be fun, almost like a Paul Verhoeven-esque like satire type thing. But yeah, it does look really bad still, regardless.
Escape from New York, however.
Oh
yes.
That's an amazing movie.
Effects,
the plane crashing into New York, that was miniatures, and they look fucking amazing.
Yeah, they do.
So if I could, for a little bit, I want to compare and contrast two modern directors that I think one of them uses a lot of practical effects with a little bit of CGI, and another one uses a surprising amount of CGI. The first one, real quick, is Christopher Nolan.
Yep.
He does a lot of really good stuff with practical effects. Most of his stuff is practical. Like in Dark Knight Returns, he really crashed a plane in the beginning. Even the pencil trick in Dark Knight, that was all practical. There was no CGI with that. They just like the dude actually like hurt himself like slamming his head into the table. Now he did this because he wanted to, but there was like there's a little bit of camera trickery with them pulling the pencil back really quick, and him actually slamming his head on the table.
I don't know if this is true, but I heard whenever they were filming Oppenheimer, they had like the actors like stand like close to like the vicinity of
exactly
the explosion is practical. They like filled like cans of gas with and then like put charges up, like C4 charges up underneath it,
so it
would blow up and cause a big firebomb.
See, in my brain I went, they actually detonated another atomic bomb.
The joke was that
so they can feel.
I'm certain it crossed Christopher Nolan's mind because there's also the rotating hallway scene in Inception where they built a giant hallway that rotated around, so they really moved around.
I feel like he went like he got offered to do actually. He's like, where can I get a hold of a bomb?
Yeah, I'm certain.
Where's the best place to drop it?
Yeah,
I don't think he was offered. I think I'm making a movie about Oppenheimer. Wait, what? No, I'm making a movie. You're going to give me money.
There will be all practical effects. I think even like there's these like little cuts that they make in Oppenheimer where there's like it's supposed to be like atoms moving very quickly and that was done in a practical way as well. I can't remember. I remember reading something about that, but like surprising amount of even things where you think, oh, this has to be CGI. No, he really did this stuff.
The hospital explosion wasn't that also practical?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love like Ledger's reaction to it because that was like a
legitimate reaction.
Yeah. The timing was off on the
timing was just a little bit off. Yeah. So he's the guy who goes out of his way, of course, like with things like the city folding with in Inception. A lot of like the extra stuff, like I think a lot of the snow in at the end of Inception was CGI, which is a lot of times that's what they'll do with that, is they'll add like particle effects and things in. But contrast that with another guy who I bet you guys didn't think used a lot of CGI, and that is David Fincher. There's actually more digital shots in Social Network than there are in Gareth Edwards' Godzilla.
Yep.
Oh shit.
Yeah. I'm
a Fincher fan. And that's the only reason why I knew about that, but here, this is where we could maybe make the distinction between creators and artists. Like if you're just trying to process these movies out, like let's just get this thing out. It's like, oh, I have a CGI that looks like this thing is good. You have people that just kind of like paste the things in and they do it haphazardly. And I don't care if it's 10 million, 100 million, or $1 billion to produce the movie. It's going to look bad because there isn't that attention to detail. There isn't that artistry to it. Whereas you have someone like a David Fincher, like you have a Christopher Nolan, a Steven Spielberg, any of these great film directors who have the vision and then employ the artists that are necessary in order to keep them working. I think right now we're at the moment in Marvel Studios where we're going through the motions. I think that's another reason why Quantumania was so terrible. It's like, well, it's another one. Let's just get it out. There are more Marvel movies than there are 007 movies, and 007 had a 50-year fucking advance on them. It's crazy. Yeah. It's fucking crazy.
I didn't know Fincher made the Benjamin Button movie.
Yeah,
I very much enjoyed that one.
Of course, there's a lot of obvious CGI with that, but even with that, there's a lot of like practical makeup with young young old Brad Pitt,
right?
Something that you don't actually see in any David Fincher movie, and that is real fake blood. Pretty much all of the blood in all of his movies is digital.
Huh?
Yeah. He does that so scenes. So because he's one of those guys who likes to take a whole lot of. He does a whole lot of takes. He resets, so it's a quick reset every single time. So you don't have to worry about continuity and things like that.
I mean, seeing how he also directed Seven and Zodiac, so
yeah. With Zodiac, the skyline to make it look like 1960s San Francisco, that's all digital. They used a lot of like you can see things in the background where they're like outside, and they use like green screens for that. Even something like in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, they digitally part Elizabeth Salander's hair so that there's continuity between each shot. They put like a gap in there. He does these tons and tons of little things to just keep, and it's just practicality. It's just to keep continuity to where, okay, we can have a quick reset and things like that. So I think he's one of the directors who uses CGI in like the best ways, to where it's just these little bitty things that you could watch this whole entire movie and you would never notice.
Well, paired with that is his, I mean this in the nicest way, psychotic attention to detail.
Oh yeah.
No director, I would say right now working, or I would honestly argue almost living or living or dead, has the level of detail that David Fincher puts in his movies. He's
very reminiscent of Stanley Kubrick's way of making movies. I don't think he's quite as abusive as Kubrick, but I've heard that like he can be very meticulous, and he is always about like I want to get this shot exactly right. So if we have to do 50 takes for it, I'm going to get that.
I've seen and heard the word stringent.
Yeah.
Again, just an exacting level of detail.
Now, again, I'm not saying that that's necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
Because even though I love Stanley Kubrick's movies, like he was a monster to quite a few people on set.
See Shelley Duvall.
Yes, see Shelley Duvall. I don't want anybody to think that I'm like excusing that or saying that that's a good thing that people need to do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Another movie that uses CGI and a little bit of practical effects, but the practical effects are more like makeup and camera tricks and lighting, is the original Sin City movie.
Oh, yeah.
Where they
now we're talking about Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And that is a big one because he went full bore into digital filmmaking. See Spy Kids, see a bunch of things there.
Battle Angel.
Battle Angel. Alita.
I enjoyed Battle Angel.
His the sequel to Desperado, Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Yeah.
That was the first feature film shot on digital, and people were pissed because, like, people being theater owners, because they didn't want to convert their theaters to digital.
Yeah.
And he was like, nope.
Yeah.
Get over it, fuckers.
Well, also, they would have had to do it for Once Upon a Time in Mexico. That's a very bad movie.
It is, but it's the first one that used fully digital setup there for
Desperado. God, I love that movie.
Desperado
I fucking
is
love Desperado, and then I watched Once Upon a Time.
Yeah,
in
Once
Mexico.
Upon a Time is not great.
Man, this is El Mariachi is also really good. That was made for like
$7,000.
how much money do you have in your wallet? That's how much that movie was made for.
No, like literally, Ethan. Right now, how much do you? No, like,
read out your
I
read
need to
out
get some
your
Burt's
bank account
chili
number
from Waffle House later.
Sin City's a movie I can watch again at some point in my life. I've seen it twice. 300, I tried to watch it again, and I don't know why I couldn't get through it again.
Yeah.
But that movie also uses CGI.
Yeah, Cincy is. I like. There's a version that I have where they separate all the stories out and put them all together, and then add extra scenes to each story.
As bridges between. That's cool.
Well, there's not even bridges. Like it's literally, it's like it's called like the director's cut or something like that. It came out like a guy did instead of getting. It even came with like a mini of the first volume of Sin City.
Okay.
Where you watched the hard goodbye
I know it's That Yellow Bastard.
That Yellow Bastard is just completely together instead of pieces.
Right.
They add in extra scenes.
You get the
and everything.
whole. Yeah.
And
Mickey
and
Rourke's-
it's a lot better.
Yeah.
I prefer, like, if I watch it, I'm going to watch that. I'm just going to watch all those. And it's literally like you click, I want to watch that little bastard and get that yellow bastard, and I click on it and I watch it.
You get the whole story there.
And if I want to watch the other ones, I have to watch the other ones. That version I think is best, but that also, that uses that's a really good use of CGI to enhance the aesthetics of the
style,
because they're using the CGI to like drain the color of things and like add the color where they needed to and things like
While
that.
at the same time, it's basically allowing your brain to like embrace that world, because if that movie wasn't in black and white, aside from a few other colors there, I don't think if that movie were in full color, I don't think you'd believe it.
The spirit.
See specifically the spirit, but also see 300.
Yeah.
Visually, I was about to say Bryan Singer, and that is not the right
Zack
man.
Snyder.
Zack Snyder. My apologies, Mr. Snyder. Zack Snyder is an artist, but only, in my opinion, static visuals. Like, some of his static visuals are very good. Like, I think of the Tree of Bodies in 300, and I think that was a very, very well done. The rest of that movie, I could not care less. Most of every movie he's ever done, I could not care
I like
less.
that movie, and most Zack Snyder movies I really don't like. There's only a couple of them that really hold up, I think. 300 I think doesn't hold up as well, but he's good with aesthetics. He's not good with actually like if he's adapting a story, he's really bad at understanding what that story actually means.
Right.
Like he completely doesn't understand what the fuck Watchmen was about. He just likes the cool things, and Rorschach's edgy. Same thing with kind of 300. He kind of doesn't. Well, that's Frank Miller. So them being fascist is kind of cool with Frank Miller. So yeah, but that's neither here nor there.
Would you say Frank Miller's a holy terror?
Ooh.
Okay, and then we're gonna leave it.
Yeah,
at that.
let's not.
Yeah.
Let's hope that one never gets made into a movie.
I want to go back to practical for just a minute.
Of course, you want to divert from
let's
this.
get
It's a
away
good
from
idea.
this.
I'm a big fan of horror movies. And,
you should start a podcast about it.
I should record an episode when I get another computer.
Yeah,
but
when the computer's back
watch
up and running
movies.
again.
You guys like movies, right? So
We love you, JT. Anyway, continue.
I'm a big fan of practical effects, and like a lot of that stems from my experiences watching horror movies growing up, and Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees. These are all practical effects on monsters. There's a really cool scene in arguably the best Nightmare Before Elm Street, if you're not counting the first one, which is the third one, the Dream Warriors, where his arms go out like really, really long.
Yep.
I have no fucking clue how they did it.
Yeah.
But it looks badass.
Well, in the first one, when his face is coming through the wall, like that's and that franchise has some crazy the when he's sucked into the bed.
Yeah.
When
that whole first movie is a
when
practical
the hand
effect.
When the
oh
hand comes through the is that in the first one? I'm not. The hand comes through the tub when she's in the.
That's
the first one.
They built this whole rig where like they could come up under it and come through like they do. Like I love stuff. That first one has some like and then it also has the mom getting pulled through the window where it's a really bad mannequin. Like, it's like they spent it's like they got to the end and they're like, oh shit, we don't have any money. Go steal a mannequin from a store and we'll dress it up and it'll be the mom.
I mentioned this before last week when we were talking about the episode we were going to record this week. And I mentioned that there's a clip of it's a whole episode of a show from the mid to late 80s that was on Discovery Channel back in the day. It was called The Incredibly Strange Film Show. There was also the second season of that called The Son of the Incredibly Strange Film Show, where Jonathan Ross, a English actor, also provocateur of everything awesome, had an interview with Sam Raimi. This was after Evil Dead 2 came out, but before Army of Darkness came out. And so he was talking about, mostly they were talking about Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
And he was talking about the one scene where I can't remember the character's name, but it's the mother that's under the floorboards.
Yeah.
When she pops out and she's floating around and she's like holding on to the hair of one of the female leads, and she's spinning around and it looks like she's like flying, and he's like, how did you do that? He's like, well, we had to spend like 20-40 hours trying to figure out how we were going to do it, and then we spent about that much time building the rig, and I hated the whole process, and if I would have had enough money, I would have just thrown money at the problem, and then that would have solved everything. And that's really, where you get to CGI versus practical.
Yeah.
It's timing, it's money. It's like, can we do it faster with CGI? Is it more cost effective with CGI? Sometimes it's unnecessarily used, like in the Rob Zombie movie, The Three from Hell, which is the sequel to the Devil's Rejects, which there's scenes in that movie where they could have easily used a $2 blood squib and used the shittiest CGI blood spatter I've ever seen in any movie, and it made me angry. The movie was shit anyway, and that was just the shit cherry on the shit top of the shit movie.
Which
you know who've done a better job? David Fincher.
Probably anybody else.
I
literally anybody else.
Yeah, I watched House of a Thousand Corpses, and that was the only Rob Zombie movie I ever needed to watch. But that one does a lot of practical effects. Like
that one does, and I will say that that one is okay.
I have to get this out of my brain.
Go ahead.
So, House of a Thousand Corpses. So there was a TV show called Dinner for Five on the IFC channel.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, John Favreau.
John Favreau would host it, and Rob Zombie,
Roger
Corman, Bruce Campbell, and Faison Love.
Right.
And, And was it Bruce or was it no? It was Favreau asks Faison Love, have you seen Rob's House? Or you mean the House of 1,000 Corpses? No, because I know that's real horror because we know clowns exist. And I don't even think he was trying to go for a joke there. I think he was trying to explain, clowns exist.
The best thing about that episode of Dinner for Five, before I finish my thought, is the fact that all of these mostly Hollywood high schlubbers or whatever term you want to use, with the exception of Rob Zombie, are fawning over Roger Corman. Every single one of them is just tell us about how you did this.
Yeah.
Tell us about how you did that. Roger Corman's like, well, AIP, we just saw what was popular, and then we made a knockoff version of it, and it made money.
He used Carnosaur. So Jurassic Park came out, so we came out with our movie Carnosaur. And if you look at the line, The budget to profit was like, rather the profit to budget was like this. Then we did Carnosaur 2 and it got a little Carnosaur 3, Carnosaur 4, Carnosaur 5. Ladies and gentlemen, and like the line was just above that. It goes, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a good run. There will be no Carnosaur 6.
Yeah, Corman would just run it into the ground if he could.
I watched one of those.
Oh, the first one's actually okay. It's okay.
That can be said for a lot of Roger Corman series movies.
Yeah. So, I think a good example of a recent film franchise that mixes the CGI, that uses the CGI with practical effects to enhance things is the John Wick franchise. There's a lot of practical stuff with that. Most of the fights are pretty much all practical effects and everything like that. But they do things like they digitally add in the muzzle flares because there's not even any active guns on set. Like they don't use blanks or anything like that. It's everything is digital with that. And then they also
they don't want another Alec Baldwin incident. So.
Well, yeah, well
that
that's
was
the
prior
reason.
to that
That's the reason why you don't have that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a reason why you've only ever heard of 2 incidents like that happening, and it's because regulations and self-regulation has been so stringent with that there's a very clear set of rules that you were supposed to follow and everybody agreed to follow, and then when they don't follow that, that's when things happen. That's when you get Rust, and that's when you get the Crow. And
also James Woods would have almost died in the movie. I don't know if you heard this story, but in when he was making Salvatore, I can't remember the name of the director, but there's a scene in that movie where this terrorist puts a gun to James Woods' head and pulls the trigger, and it goes off, but it doesn't hit him. And James Woods explained to the director, is like, all right, so the problem is Oliver Stone. So it's Oliver Stone.
Yeah,
and so
sense.
He explains to Oliver Stone, you can't have a blank in the chamber if the gun's next to my head, because even a blank will have that little cardboard piece in it, and that could kill me.
Yeah.
And so they're filming the scene, and for some reason, James Woods goes, hold on a second, pisses everybody off on set, looks in the revolver, there's a fucking blank in it. He's like, this could have killed me. So in the movie, you see him pull the trigger, and it's just a click. There's no bullet.
Yeah.
There's no blank in the chamber.
Yeah.
James Woods could have died.
Yeah.
Oliver Stone could have killed James Woods.
Yeah, I mean that's what happens when you let a Vietnam.
You know
vet,
what? That is a Mad
have a whole
Lib
lot of
that
money.
should have just been easily to happen. It's like just like pick a director, pick an actor, pick a verb. Yeah, that one. Yeah, and it makes perfect sense.
Right.
Especially '80s Oliver Stone. See Scarface, which I think he only wrote that.
That's Brian De Palma.
Brian, but
Brian
I think he wrote it.
Possibly, I don't know about that one.
Let's find out.
A good
Screenplay.
Another good practical effect that was in the newest John Wick is there's this famous staircase in Paris. I don't know the French word for it. Write us and tell us. I don't care. He
really doesn't. Folks.
He fights up it, and then he gets to the very top, and I've already talked about how this annoyed me, but he gets kicked down it, and then he falls all the way down it, and the stuntman practically fell all the way down. It's like 20 flights of stairs. It's like ridiculous. He falls all the way down, and the only CGI that they did was they digitally removed the camera that was following him because there's back and forth shots. So they do things like that.
In that third movie, he like falls off a roof and hits like a bunch of shit on the way down, and it's like 3 stories up, and then then he gets up and walks off.
I think that was a pratfall. I'm not certain about that one, but they do. But 99% of the other stuff in that was practical. I know. Yeah. They use a lot, especially in the first one. Like the first one, almost everything except I think muzzle flare is practical.
Right.
So there's a director we have not talked about yet who, alongside Lucas, I think was very at the forefront of the change between practical effects and computer generated imagery. I want to talk about James Cameron, but I'm not talking about the one everyone would probably think I would be with Terminator 2. I respect Terminator 2. I love Terminator 2. Arguably the greatest action movie of all time. I want to talk about a movie
lot of interesting problem solving with shots in that.
That is very true, yes. I want to talk about a movie 2 years prior to. I want to talk about The Abyss. And The Abyss is my kind of science fiction. It's very slow. There's a tension there, but it's not like an actual open conflict. It's the difference between not understanding and understanding, and once you understand that, you actually come to a peaceful solution about it. What I love about the Abyss is the practical effects in there, like the rat that was put inside the fluid, and that was an actual rat breathing fluid, creepy as all hell, but the rat was okay, thank God. But that has like one of my favorite CGI effects of all time, which was the face out of the water where she touches it and like the ripples move through that, and just that balance there between things that are real and things that don't exist, but because of the artistry are as real as anything that can be put in the movie. If I had a final thought, just to kind of like for my
that was the Abyss. James Cameron almost killed Ed Harris.
Ed Harris. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep. It's another one about
Ed Harris. Ed Harris doesn't like James Cameron.
Yes.
Gee, I wonder why.
He really almost drowned him.
Was fantastic in the movie, but if you almost killed me, I would not want to be around you either.
Yeah.
But I guess for my it's what level of artistry is necessary to make the unreal real, and that is both in practical effects and in CGI. With CGI, it's more so because it is that thing that is completely imaginary and just give an image.
Yeah.
I think it's easier to accept practical effects, especially if your brain is like, oh, this is a cheaper movie than, cheaper practical effects. It helps you kind of maybe embrace the whole storytelling by doing that. When you start getting into CGI, to me, it really is the artistry of the director, the special effects artists, and the people who are in there to kind of just really knock that home and create a cohesive world that works across everything.
And for me, CGI really works best when it is like you take style over substance. When you choose a style like Sin City.
Yeah. The more stylistic something is, the more the CGI can be unrealistic and we still expect it. It's when you're trying to do something super realistic, especially with like a human face or something like that, because of the uncanny valley, like it really sticks with us.
That's why I fall back to a lot of times, like especially we talk about the 80s, because the 80s was like a really big boom for practical effects, and like fucking Gremlins is just a bunch of puppets, but they make it look really, really good, especially when like Gizmo gets water on him and he starts bubbling. That shit looks amazing. And then the few practical effects that are in Ghostbusters with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and with the beams out of the my brain just shut right the fuck off.
If you wouldn't have said it,
I mean the
have
unlicensed nuclear accelerators that they have?
Yes, the unlicensed proton packs, the unlicensed nuclear accelerators. The light beams from those things are fucking amazing too.
But yeah, any of those like stuff by like Jim Henson, like Labyrinth or The Dark Crystal.
Oh,
or any of those, like realistic puppets.
We never mentioned Jim Henson. We were talking about practical fucking effects.
We mentioned him here. We don't got time for everything.
That's true. That is true.
Labyrinth, I think. Labyrinth, as far as practical effects, I think is better than Dark Crystal, but Dark Crystal is also acceptable.
I think Labyrinth, in that regard, is mainly just because the amount of practical effects that are in Labyrinth.
Yeah. Like I didn't even talk about like fucking all the Tom Cruise movies that's come out that's done like crazy ass practical stunts. Because,
give him credit. He's hanging off the
Cruise wants to die. Apparently, I don't know.
Stunts might be a good top 5 for us to do at some point in the future.
Anything with Jackie Chan. There we go.
My list would be like four Jackie Chans and one Tom Cruise.
Martial arts movie.
Martial arts
movie. The Tony Jaa movies where he did everything realistically with no fucking wires or anything. Yep. You've got like I
love the Jet Li movies.
Yeah, Jet Li movies. Crouching Tiger, Hidden.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. The fight on the trees.
Where they use wires, but then they use CGI to take the wires away, so they don't have to worry about shooting around them. They just take them out.
John Woo before Face Off. Yeah, like before Face Off.
Hard boiled.
Yeah, hard boiled. Yeah. And A Better Tomorrow, specifically hard boiled.
Bruce Lee.
Oh yeah.
We need to talk about kung fu movies
at some point.
At some point.
Ethan, final thoughts on practical versus pixels?
I enjoy movies that utilize CGI very well, but when you can use practical effects to where it just absolutely like blows me away, like John Carpenter with The Thing. Like absolutely love it, admire it, whole 10 yards.
Yeah.
9 yards.
Yeah.
Jay, final thoughts on practical?
I think I pretty much summed it up a little bit earlier. Again, it is a matter of artistry and who can achieve their vision and who can't, and who's trying to achieve a vision and succeeding, even if you don't necessarily succeed. There is something you can see where effort is put in, and so I'll give at least that. But when they knock it out of the park and create a cohesive world, that's when it's the best.
Brady?
Yeah. Oftentimes CGI can be used as kind of a lazy, just put something in there, where it's really hard to do, and done well, it works really well. Even something like we've shared on the Marvel movies a lot, but something like Thanos, like that is a CGI character that works, because there's a lot of effort put into that character, whereas and we've talked about it a lot, but it's one of the more recent ones, Quantumania, that is lazy. But then you have something like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, where they do some practical things. The thing where she's carrying Chris Pratt in the beginning.
Chris Pratt, yeah.
They made a double, but just made it to where it only weighed 30 pounds. Like, so you can mix things in, and I think it works well when you. I think CGI works well overall when you're just using it like David Fincher does, where it's these little things here and there for practicality's sake. But I also love it in when you're doing practical effects, because there's a lot of problem solving. Goes, how do we make this look real?
Gollum.
Yeah,
I forgot to mention Gollum is
we mentioned Lord of the Rings, but we didn't mention Gollum. But then there's also like Pirates of the Caribbean with Davy Jones, that. It could be argued that Davy Jones is like, when you, not comparing them to, but like he's like the pinnacle of that, because there's not one moment where you don't feel like he's where he's at, and the same thing with Gollum. But yeah, it can be used. Both can be used very lazily. I think, I don't know. I used to be like, it has to be a practical effect. It has to be a practical effect. I prefer that. But coming back to it now, and the more that I've even talked about it now, like CGI, I think, and more when I research this, CGI, I think, can do a lot as well. It's just how much application do you put into it? How much time and dedication is it just something lazily slapped in there so we can have this big giant fuck off light sky beam thing that we're fighting? Or are we actually going to like create something like Thanos or something like that?
I think practical effects came out of a necessity. They came out of a need to be able to visually tell part of a story that you couldn't tell without them. A lot of practical effects in the early goings were either up to the director or up to the actor, such as like Lon Chaney. No one told him to do that. He did it because it looked cool, and they were okay with it because it didn't cost them any more money. I think that practicality versus computer-generated stuff is looked at as a tool to make things look the way they need to look, or at least to fit the way they need to fit into whatever they're being used for, is the best possible use for them. And I think that as long as, like I said earlier, like style versus substance, if it fits the style of what you're doing, then go for it, as long as it doesn't look like the whole conversation that we've been having all night is really just, as long as it looks aesthetically proper and I can believe what I'm looking at is real, and buy into that. I think it doesn't matter that it's either practical or CGI. And I think that's how I stand on it now. I used to be just like you, Brady, whether it's like CGI because of how improperly it was used over the years. I was against it, but then not knowing if something was CGI and then finding out later it was CGI and be like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. So
I think like any tool, it can be used incorrectly.
Right.
It's probably easier to misuse CGI just because they're, especially with like the higher ups, they go like, oh, you can just do some computer stuff and
when
make
you're
that.
copy and pasting assets to make something.
But going to something that you said, that first dinosaur in Jurassic Park, even though it doesn't perfectly hold up, I believe. The fuck was that?
I was thinking
Oh God,
about
the
doing-
Pepsi flies are back.
Oh,
I was
Jesus.
thinking about doing like humming like the opening like. And
Oh, you're gonna get us
no.
demonetized. Don't
Yeah,
do that.
that's why I stopped.
I still believe.
Monetize.
Jesus Christ. I still believe that dinosaur is there. I still
Right.
believe that they are looking at that dinosaur.
Right.
Because they did all these other things.
Like the Triceratops later.
I mean, fucking talk about Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Damn.
Oh. Yeah.
Sorry, Roger.
Everybody look up Swinging the Lamp as to when it comes to like using digital effects to enhance things or to make things seem realistic. Bumping the lamp, that's what it's called. Bumping the lamp, not swinging the lamp.
Yeah.
So yeah. Shit. I've lost my train of thought. My bad. It's really late. Shit.
It is really late.
Yeah.
Well, that and the young man did something strange and weird, and we're still trying to figure out what. The
Yeah,
hell it was
like
about.
that threw me fucking
There you
off.
go.
If you want,
There you go.
Because at first I was like, did I even hear that
Yeah.
shit? Is everybody like, am I
I
going
literally
crazy?
thought his phone was going off is what the noise was because I
Yeah.
was looking at the other
I was
side
like,
of the room.
what the actual fuck?
So I can either imitate
Jay,
a fly
cut out that
or-
sound so we just sound completely insane.
So I can either imitate a fly or a phone.
We don't have to cut out any of that and still sound completely fucking
Yeah, I mean,
insane.
fair enough,
Good
fair enough,
God.
fair enough. This is what happens when we get too late.
We
to
prattle
record.
on until the early morning hours. Well, I think that's all we've got from practical to pixels. What did you think?
Yeah, I was about to do a call to action as well. I'm sorry. You beat me to it.
What did you think, listeners? Email us at travelersontheomnibus@gmail.com, 1L, and let us know what you thought about the episode.
Yeah, tell us about your favorite or least favorite practical and or CGI. Do them all.
Which do you prefer?
Write an essay.
Watch every Christopher Nolan movie.
Typed, double spaced.
Yes.
I would like
We
a
will grade your papers.
dissertation and a flowchart from practical to pixels from you, the audience.
Email a slideshow.
Yes.
Ethan, plug a show.
I've got a book report in 2 weeks. I need this shit. That's why we're doing the episode.
Let's go with Fearology, hosted by J.L. Kite. He goes about watching horror movies, gives his personal takes on it. Is it a good movie? Is it a
Oh
bad
my God,
movie?
if you were a cat, you'd be JL Kitty.
What?
Yeah, that was the proper
You'd be
response.
JL
to that.
Kitty.
That
Meow.
Cool.
it's like a lead balloon in here.
Jody goes over his personal experiences with horror movies and watching them, good and bad, and in between and all.
There is an episode about house cats.
Is there an
Yeah, it's called
Yeah.
Nine Tales of Terror.
Yeah.
Listen to Nine Tales of
Yeah,
Terror.
there you go. Wow, the 12 episodes that are currently out for
Available
Fearology.
on
Fearology,
Spotify.
where when Jody thinks of a funny pun for a name for an episode, and then he tries to make watch movies around that.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. And then I found out there's more than 9 of those.
You found his equation.
Yeah, don't look up how many zombie shark movies there are.
There's way
How
too
many
many.
zombie shark movies are there?
No.
Way too many.
Listen to that show where podcasts are found, specifically Spotify,
Spotify.
and Spotify only.
There's more than one movie about an evil bong.
Let's not forget
Carry on.
Deathbed, the bed that eats.
It's 4. It's 4 movies about an evil
Or
bong.
by evil bongs.
You know how I know this? Because I went to a store that sells used DVDs, and they had the Evil Bong collection.
Oh,
baby.
boy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whiskey and Wrestling is a show put on by Jason Holder and Michael Hill, our good friends, and they
Maybe
get
not
together.
for long. Apologize. Yeah.
They get together and they talk about wrestling because it's in the name, and then they talk about whiskey because it's in the name, and then they drink whiskey
'Cause it's in the name.
Because it's in the name, and they don't want to get off brand. So please listen to them wherever fine podcasts are harvested. Go out to the podcast orchard and pick some.
He walks behind the rows and listen to the 20-minute promos about MJF and Adam Cole and
Yeah,
everybody else on the show.
That should have been a segment this week and a segment next week.
Mm-hmm.
And instead
But I
it
guess what
kept
happened
going.
at the end, I don't know. That could have been done better.
What happened? Yeah. I literally started blacking that out.
You should have.
I mean,
Jay,
that's fair.
tell us about a show.
All right, so silence you cell phones. Silence you cell phones. You fucking cell phones. How dare you fucking talk and make
Jesus
buzzing sounds
Christ.
while we're fucking doing shit on this show, god damn it. Silence your cell phones. Kevin Shelton, Jared Hubbard, bringing you some of the greatest reviews and talking about the world of movies, mostly modern, but occasionally dipping in years gone by. You can find them on all major podcasting networks and sometimes on YouTube. Again, also on Silence Your Cell Phones. You watch them because you can actually watch them, unlike us, even though I say watch us too. Just watch the waveform. Eventually, Richard D. James's face will show up in it.
That's frightening.
Yeah.
I would
Train
like
your
to,
mind to see electromagnetic waves and then watch along.
I would like to take this time to thank Backyard Gaming in Goshen, Mississippi. Thanks, Cameron, the sole owner and proprietor of Magnarb Gaming, known as the Emperor, God of Gaming.
God
Cameron.
Emperor, sir.
God Emperor of
yeah.
Gaming.
Get
Words.
it fucking right.
Words.
Thank you.
Magnarb Gaming, where they have everything and shit. Pretty much anything that you could get except for Lorcana, which is not available anywhere really. Maybe on the black
Yeah,
market.
you might be asking, are they getting the October restock? No. Are they getting Series 2? No. Are they getting the restock in January? No.
You're really selling everyone on McNarb Gaming. I mean, you just really are.
Well,
Thanks,
if you want
man.
anything except Lorcana, they got you.
That is true.
Although if you
That
want a
is true.
Lorcana deck box, they have plenty of them.
Yes.
They won't get you a secret lair, though. You have to order that directly through Wizards of the Coast. This month coming up is Evil Dead and
Yes, I saw that.
and the Princess Bride.
Oh, okay.
The art looks amazing. The cards are unplayable. But hey,
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I would never. I've been interested in some secret layers, but I don't give a shit about the card
Right.
what the cards
Right,
actually do.
right.
So.
There's the old horror comic ones that look
again,
amazing.
the art
but
looks. They've
cards
got
are
some
trash.
that are like
I saw.
inspired
Is
by
it one
EC.
like the honkening where it's just like a goose with like multiple heads?
Yeah, probably.
I saw some magic card that
There
was
is
like
a
that.
magic card
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
it's called the Goose Mother.
The Goose Mother.
Okay, I just
Yes.
saw like a goose.
It's a
with, like,
three-headed
multiple-
goose.
This
from
this one had like seven heads.
This is from the-
is a multi-headed goose.
yeah.
Wilds of Eldraine goose.
Yes.
Yeah, the Evil Dead art looks amazing, and so does the Princess Bride art, and so does the EC Comics
I kicked
art.
myself when I didn't get the Transformers one.
But
I didn't even
the cards
understand
are-
what the fuck a secret layer was then.
Yeah.
So.
right. They're about every month now. All right, so
We're one big thing.
One
so,
big
ladies
thing.
and gentlemen, if
Oh,
you are
yeah.
listening to this before October 28th, 2023, we have the BST for BST, the Brain Surgery Tournament for One, Brandon Scott Tanner, co-host of one of the great podcasts of our time, the Completed Podcast. If you love Magic the Gathering, listen to these boys every week as they take you through both strategy and also just day-to-day and life stuff that they're going through. But Brandon Scott Tanner, one of our favorite people, stage 3 brain cancer. He's been fighting it out, and God bless him for it. We are doing a tournament to help pay for his medical bills. It is a Modern Unleashed $30 entry plus $1 per proxy. You can proxy your entire deck, and if you'd like to draw cards during the event, at instant speed, you can pay $1 and you can draw cards at instant speed.
Yes.
Top prize is is it Time Spiral?
No, it is an uncut foil sheet from War
War of the
War of the
Spark.
Spark. I keep, for some reason, Time Spiral has been
and
running
then
in my
like
head. My bad.
second to 8th place are like sealed boxes,
Yes.
depending on what position you get is what box you
Great
get.
amount of product, a great amount of competition.
many
Lit-
raffles along
raffles.
with our yearly Halloween party.
And you could just
Absolutely.
come by and donate.
Yeah. Or if if you go to the MacNarb page on Facebook, they have a Venmo link for you to donate directly.
they have
to as well.
T-shirts and hoodies.
Yes, T-shirt. Oh yes, good friend Savannah Vega of the show. We have mugs, we have T-shirts, and a bunch of stuff with art celebrating Brandon and his fight with stage 3 brain
If
cancer.
you purchase a shirt or hoodie and wear it on the day of the event, you gain free entry into the. I believe it's either one of the raffles or a free entry into the tournament, excluding the proxies.
Yeah. So yeah, so absolutely. So check all of that out. And again, Brandon, we love you, brother.
For travelers on the omnibus,
I'm Ethan Skinner.
I'm James McCarthy.
I'm Brady Davis.
I'm Jody Kite. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for stopping by and enjoy the ride, guys. We haven't figured out next week yet, but we will.